important part of this agreement is that this isn't a cooperation agreement, meaning that by you meeting with us today, we're really just meeting. I'm not promising to do anything. I'm not promising to ask Judge Nathan or any of the judges that's been assigned to your case to do anything. We're just talking, and so that's the most important part of this agreement. However, almost as important is the fact that what this agreement does for you is it gives you protection. So what it means is that the government cannot use what you say today against you, with some exceptions, which we'll talk about in a minute. But whatever you talk about today, you have what's called immunity. So that means that the words that you say today, we cannot use against you in a case in chief if we were ever to bring one. Okay?
Thank you.
There's exceptions to that. The most meaningful one of which is that if you say something today that's not true, that's a lie, we can bring a prosecution against you for what's called false statements. So I'm a federal officer. I have several officers here. The FBI is here, and if you lie to someone that's like me or like Special Agent Horn, it's a crime. So you have to be truthful. The other exception to this that doesn't necessarily apply directly to you, but if there ever was a retrial in your case, or if there ever was a criminal case, a future criminal case against you, and your lawyer or you said something different or took a position that's different than what you say today, we can then cross-examine you or witness based upon what you say today. So it's a little bit nuanced, meaning I can't use what you say against you in our case in chief. However, if you were to testify, or if your lawyer called a witness to testify and they said something that is totally different than what you say today, we could then cross-examine you or the witness and say, hey, do you remember when we met with Miss Maxwell back in July of 2025? She told us, and then say what she said. Okay?
I understand.
Okay. Other than that, I know you didn't have a lot of time this morning to meet with Mr. Marcus, but did you have a chance to go over this briefly with him?
I did.
Okay. All right. So I've already signed it, as has Special Agent Horn, and Mr. Marcus signed it as well. So you got a pen? Please sign it right where it says clients. Yep. And I will provide a copy of this to your lawyers so you guys have it. Okay. Thank you. So, Ms. Maxwell, about a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago,
you see the light blinking on there? On the Sony. Yeah, there it is.
Okay, we're just confirming that it works, and it does. Ms. Maxwell, I guess about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, Mr. Marcus reached out to me and said that you wanted to speak with somebody from the government about not only your case, but about everything that's been in the media and that's been publicized about Mr. Epstein in your case.
That is true, and I did speak to him, and I did ask him did tell him that I was very keen to talk to anyone, because no one from the government at any time ever since the inception of the case, so dating back to the early 2000s, has ever spoken to me, and indeed I believe ever reached out to me at any time to even speak to me, and that includes up to when I was indicted and prosecuted. I believe that, or I understand, I should say, rather, that my attorneys at the time did tell the government that I wanted to speak to them, because I was very keen to meet with anyone so that I could tell or have them ask me any question. I've never had any problem to speak to anybody, and I offered myself, and I kept asking if they would meet with me so that I could talk to them, and for whatever reason, that was not happening.
Okay. I have questions that I want to ask you, but I'm not, if there's a question that I'm not asking that you think should be asked, I invite you to volunteer. Same thing goes to your lawyers. Just to start a little bit, very briefly, can you talk about when you first met Mr. Epstein. I know that goes back a while. And just very generally talk about your relationship with Mr. Epstein from the time you met him all the way up until his death.
I met Mr. Epstein in 1991. I'd never heard of him or met him before, and no one in my family had ever either. My father never knew him, and I'll explain why that is the case.
Where did you meet him?
I had a girlfriend who I had moved to America briefly I'd moved to America in 1990.
Okay.
Moved is a big word. I'd come to visit America in 1990. I had been running my own company up until that time, which was a company called Maxwell's Corporate Gifts. And I had also been working for my father at the time. I'd had multiple jobs with him. I was, in 1990, I was working with a new company of his, a new newspaper that he was launching called The European. And I was in charge of launching a magazine to go with the European. And I was traveling at that time from England to America because my father was looking to, he'd also bought Macmillan, the publishing house, and he had purchased the New York Daily News. And it's true to say that my father always wanted me to come back full-time and work for him, but that's a much longer story. I don't think we need to go into it this time. So, but I was always working with him. Well, there was no escaping, as it were, to work for him. So in 1990, I had come over to New York to help look at some of that. He was having some advertising issues with the New York Daily News, and in fact, I may have met Donald Trump at that time because my father was friendly with him and liked him very much. And I think it should be said that he also very much liked Ivana, because she was also from Czechoslovakia, where my dad was from. So I don't remember if I did meet him or not in 1990 with my dad, but I knew that that's how I knew about then Mr. Trump.
And this was before you met?
This was before I met Mr.
Epstein?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
So I was already going backwards and forwards in America, and then in April of 1991, I came to New York. I can't remember for what reason, what business reason, but there was a business reason, something to do with my dad at that time. And a girlfriend of mine, an American, told me I'd broken up with I'd been engaged, with a very long-term boyfriend, and we'd broken up. And she said, well, as your girlfriends do, I've got a guy for you to meet. And I was like, who is it? And she goes, he's been dating my sister, and you'll love him, he's looking for a wife. I'm edging towards 30. I don't need to tell you guys that's a very important moment for a girl to think about important things. Sure, I'd be happy to meet him. And so sometime in 1991, we're in 1991, I met him at his offices on Madison Avenue. And I think the most memorable thing I can think about that is he was wearing a tie, which he didn't often do, and it had a giant tomato ketchup stain on it. So I was like, wow, okay. And that was how we met.
Was your meeting at his office for you to meet him just personally, or were you there for work-related reasons?
No, I knew nothing about him.
Okay.
He just invited me to come and have tea at him. And I was like, tea, that's English, okay. But what was unusual was in his offices. So I went to his offices and we met. And I found him very engaging, and that was that.
So that's how you meet him. So, and again, I don't want to spend a lot of time, on this particular issue, but what happened with your relationship over the years from the time you meet him in 1991 up until the time he passed away? Just give the highlights.
Okay, so I was looking for real estate for my dad to buy some, and Epstein told me that he was also looking to move from his apartment, and would I help him? And I said, sure, I'm looking already, so I could look for him. So that's how it started. And then in 1991, my father passed away, and I returned to New York after that, originally to come back and help with family businesses, which was Macmillan, And then the debacle of my father's passing hit the family, and we lost all our businesses, and my family thought that it would be best if I stayed in America because of the intensity of the press and the drama surrounding my father's death in England. So I stayed, and Epstein said, well, you can keep helping me, you can help me find a house, and you can decorate the house, and it gave me something to do.
Were you in a romantic relationship with him at this point, or just friends?
Just friends.
And while we're just, with respect to your father, there have been multiple questions about whether he worked for any intelligence agency. Do you have any knowledge about that?
I think, certainly my father had a background in intelligence because he was, I believe he did in the Second World War. He was a British intelligence officer. I think that my sort of belief is that once you've been an intelligence officer, you're kind of always, it doesn't mean that you're formally employed. So I don't think my dad in any formal sense was employed by any agency, but when you are a very significant businessman and politician, as my father was, you meet with people all the time, and you, I guess, trade business or ideas. I think if that would fall under that definition, that's how I would think of it. Now, he certainly, I have no formal knowledge of anything specifically that he did in that thing, but if you're asking me if I thought that he did help people, the answer would be yes, I do.
Did your father and Mr. Epstein have a business relationship over the years? I know we're maybe jumping around a little bit.
They never met. So
as far as you know, they never even met.
No, I
or you know they never met.
I know they never met.
Well, how do you know they never met?
Thank you. Just categorically no, they never met. Well, because after in 1991, before my father died, he asked me if I'd met anybody interesting or whatever, because I was still trying not to be sucked back into the family business. And I told him that I had met Mr. Epstein, and the reason why I shared that I'd met Mr. Epstein because I believed at that time that Epstein worked for Bear Stearns, and Bear Stearns was one of our banks. And I knew that my father was friendly with both Jimmy Kane and with Ace Greenberg. So my dad was actually in New York, I think. If I don't think I had this conversation on the phone, but I honestly, we're talking 30 years ago, so I'm not sure. But maybe I told him this verbatim because I know that what my dad did, whether I saw it or whether he did it and told me later, I don't remember. But he called both Jimmy Kane and Ace Greenberg to ask what sort of guy he was and was he even allowed to, because
so they never met.
He didn't even know
but
who
they
he was.
had they knew some of the same people, it sounds like, or certainly the Bear Stearns connection was something that you knew that they had.
No, well, he never had a connection with Epstein. He had a connection with the bank. I mean, Epstein, I'd never heard of him or knew of him before, and I certainly, if my dad had known him, right, when I said this is who he was, he didn't know who he was. So he rang Ace and he rang Jimmy to ask if it was okay that I even knew him. And I just want to explain briefly why my father would even do such a thing. I've had some interesting things that have happened in my life, and one of them was to be found on an IRA kidnap and murder list. And so after that happened, well, there were other related, I'm not going to bore you with all the horrible things in that vein, but if you want the details, of course, I can. But after that happened, my father wanted to put a lot of protection on me, obviously, and I declined on the grounds that that would be a very life-restricting event. You're all in law enforcement, I know you understand this. And so he had told me that I would be taking my life in my own hands and whatever. And so I think after that event and several others where I had stalkers and all that thing at one house, he was always quite protective of me. And so if I met somebody, he would try and verify that they weren't going to do anything hideous. And so in case you thought it was weird that he would call Jimmy and Ace, you may think it is, but from my perspective, he was just because he was concerned I was in America alone, and he had an opportunity to verify who this person was. And so I don't know if I was in the room with him, I don't recall, but I know that at some point my father told me, he's fine, you can see him.
Yeah.
He's safe.
Okay.
Well, okay.
So we might come back and touch a little bit more on that at some point, but
yeah,
I went down a rabbit hole for a minute.
That's right. I just wanted to.
Father. No, that's helpful. Thank you. So okay, so you're now in the 90s, and you're friends with Mr. Epstein. Your house, decorating the house or the apartment. What happens with your relationship again? I know we're talking about a 35-year time period or whatever, but to the extent you can kind of at a very high level talk about it.
Listen, I think just full disclosure is the best way to go at this point.
Yeah.
So in 1992, I slept with him one time. And I was like, whoa, that's it, we're going to be dating. Because that's how I thought. And I kind of thought of myself in that moment, like, because I felt if you slept with someone that you were then dating them.
Yeah.
That's the world I came from. But that really was, well, that's how I thought. But we didn't sleep together again for, I don't know, really a significant period of time. And when I say
years or?
I don't know if it was a year. That feels long, but maybe 9 months. I mean, a long time.
Okay.
I just want to go back. So I had found a house for him to rent in New York, because he had asked me. I'd been looking for my father, and I found one, which was a former Iranian embassy, I think it was. I think it belonged to the Iranians or the Iraqis, someone.
Okay.
And I didn't know that he had any money, really, and it was like, I want to say it was $12,000 a month, which to me seemed like a fortune. And I said to myself, I found this house, but I don't think you can afford it. And he was like, ridiculous, of course I can afford it, and he rented it. And that house came with, it was a State Department house, because it was, I think that was under sequestration or whatever it was. And I put it back together, but there were certain rules you couldn't paint, because you had to go back, and you gave it back to the country that. So he had this house, and I had moved into a 10-foot by 10-foot apartment because all of our stuff had been either lost or frozen or whatever. So he became, in this moment of my life, really, because I was like, everything was, it felt very similar to this moment, if that makes sense. Anyway, but I had no key to his house. I had no free access to his house. And in the entire time that he lived there, which was, I believe, until the beginning of 1996, I never slept a single night in that house. Ever. Not one.
But you said a minute ago that that you had slept with him on one occasion, and at the time you remember thinking, that this meant you were in a relationship, but then it didn't. You really were not in that type of relationship.
Well, I thought,
did that change over between 91 and 92 or whatever, and years forward?
So I did travel with him a lot.
Okay.
So I would go to his houses in Palm Beach. He only had that house actually no, that's not true. He had the house in Palm Beach, and he had a house in Ohio.
In where?
Ohio.
Okay.
And he had the house in Ohio because of his business relationship with Mr. Wexner. And he had and I had to go and decorate and put that house together. When we traveled together, we stayed in the same bed, but not in the. But I didn't.
Go ahead. It's okay. Talk. So you stayed. So when you would travel with him to his houses in Palm Beach, Ohio, or even just traveling, if it was just traveling with him, you would stay in the same bed, so sleep in the same bed with him.
Yes.
Okay.
Epstein told me that he had a heart condition.
A what?
Heart condition.
Heart condition. Okay.
Which meant that he didn't have intercourse a lot, which suited me fine, because I actually do have a medical condition which precludes me having a lot of intercourse.
So what was your understanding of his heart condition and why that prevented him from having intercourse regularly?
I don't know. I mean, he liked other forms of sexual activity.
Well, let's come back. We're going to obviously spend a lot of time on the actual conduct he was accused of, so we'll come back to that. So pick up where you were talking about you traveling around with him. He rented the New York former Iranian house.
Iranian, there you go, yeah.
Until around 96. That time, I believe you said that he was basically your life, like you were with him pretty regularly.
Well, no.
Okay.
So I never was with him regularly. That is one of those misnomers. I mean, at the beginning I did see more of him, but I worked in his office. So I would go to the office and I would see him. And I would count in my head when I would see him, I would count that that would be a day that I would see him. But I never ever stayed with him. I believe, certainly until 93 or 94, what I didn't know was that I think he was still with his actual girlfriend, who was Eva Anderson, who became Eva Dubin. They had been together, my understanding, I think about 10 years. I'm not sure, but that's what I think, 10 years. And I had understood from my girlfriend initially that they weren't together, and Epstein himself had told me that they were not together, but I don't think that was true. In fact, I know it's not true. So they were still together up until, I think, 94, when at some point in that period of time, Eva met Glenn Dubin, and they got married. I think in 94, I don't remember when they got married. But she was his best friend and his everything. He told me that he always wished that he had married her and had a child with her. And I know that she was family for him for his whole life. And I think even, I'm not sure this is true, but you guys will know if this is true or not, when he came back from Paris and you arrested him, I don't know if Eva was on the plane. Now, I think that either I read it in the discovery that I received, or I saw it somewhere. But even if she wasn't on the plane, there must have been some email communication where she was in Paris at the same time and going to fly back. One or the other. I don't know which one is the correct version of that. But so they were still obviously very close and remained throughout the entire. In fact, he saw her a lot. And so I also know now, which I didn't know at the time, was that he saw lots of other women. And I know that now because I can see it from the flight logs, and I know it now because I can see from the emails.
So you know from the case
yes,
that
not from
what happened.
Yes,
you
I didn't know.
That along the way.
Contemporaneously, I absolutely did not know.
So okay, so just and we're going to spend time on everything you're talking about, but just to kind of close out big picture your relationship. So we're now in the late 90s. Continue on with, again, staying high level to the extent you can about your relationship with him.
So my responsibilities increased with each acquisition that he had and each new project. So I believe the first thing that he purchased after was the ranch in New Mexico.
Okay.
And so what he had tasked me with up until that, and I think that was purchased in 94, if I'm right. So he had tasked me, one of the things that we did was visit, in my mind I say every state, but it wouldn't have been every state, but many states, to go look at real estate and property. And so I know we went to Montana, I know we went to Utah, and it was to go look at real estate. It was fun, to be honest. And then I arranged for us to go to New Mexico, and he just loved New Mexico. And then I don't remember how the ranch happened. I don't remember that now. It's lost. And then he ended up buying the ranch, and I think, if I'm right, it came from the king was who named him the governor. And bought the ranch, and then I had to deal with that. And dealing with that was extensive. I mean, the way that I thought of myself, or the way that I think is the best way to explain how I view my role, was as a general manager, because each property to me was like a hotel. So the ranch was very challenging, because not only that, but it had BLM land. So to maintain your BLM, you had to have cattle. And I love animals, and so the first thing, horses, and so I wanted it. If you're going to have a ranch, I like authenticity, so I don't think you should have a ranch if you're not going to have the things that make it special.
So were you paid by him along the way?
So
during
I
this time?
became salaried at some point.
Okay.
My memory is that I got paid $25,000 a year to begin with. That's my memory. I may be wrong. And then with each, as it became more obvious, because I kept thinking I was going to go home being England. And but it.
Did you, and financially, you were not relying on him. The $25,000 or whatever amount you were paid, were you relying on that money to live and his generosity to live, or did you have your own money?
So there's a.
And again, I want to just make sure we're talking about that, like keeping it between like the late '90s, maybe I guess into a little the 2000s.
I just want to hit something on the head right now. There's a tremendous amount of reporting that said that I had a trust fund. Thank you. A trust fund. I have never had a trust fund at any time.
So how did you live? Did you live with I mean, $25,000 is not enough to live on.
No. So I had, during this period of time, the the Serious Fraud Squad had come to see me in relation to my father's passing, and to establish whether I had been involved in any way with his business or with any shenanigans. I think I've told the story many times, so I don't know if it's now somewhat hypocritical, but I'll tell you what my memory is. So I received a letter from them that said, "Think about my business," and my memory may be hypocritical. There was a PS that said, "Are you Snow White's cousin?" I had nothing. I was never involved in any of his business, whatever. So I was free. And
Were you? So, but obviously your father and your family had a lot of businesses. is it because the money, whatever money or whatever equity was in the businesses, just stayed with your other family members?
No, there was no money. So my father was never attached to money. He was born a peasant, a real one, dirt floor, no shoes, no clothes, some clothes, but not, sorry, I don't mean to say, and nothing. And he was never into that. I mean, there were things that he had, his extravagances. He loved his boat and his plane, so obviously you need money for that, but there was nothing else. And there was not a single penny that came to any of us at any time, ever.
Okay, so when you're talking about your life with Mr. Epstein in the 90s, you're very different financially. You're very different financially positioned than he is. Meaning,
Absolutely.
He's giving you money. He's paying for when you fly. He, I assume,
Absolutely.
pays for your flights.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I interrupted you when you were saying how you were functioning as general manager. You helped with the New Mexico ranch. So did your role with him continue like that for many years, or for how long?
So I continued in 2000. Well, by 1999, our relationship had foundered.
Why?
Two reasons. We were never sleeping together again, so we stopped having sexual relations in 1999. Not full sex, sorry, just to be clear. Didn't mean that we didn't still share a bedroom sometimes or whatever. He had another girlfriend.
He had what?
Other girlfriends. I definitively knew that it was over after 9/11, actually, because we were both in New York. And I don't know, were you in New York? 9/11, I mean, 9/11's... and it was a scary time if you were in New York. You didn't know. I didn't know. Nobody knew what was going on. And he was in 71st Street and I was in 65th Street, my house. And he wouldn't see me at all. Asked me, his mum, who I was very close to, was in hospital at Lenox Hill, just asked me to look after her. And then I knew, as anyone did at that time, if you're not going to be there for someone in 9/11, you're never going to be there. So for me, that was the line in the sand. And he had another English girlfriend, actually, from 2000.
Are you, though, still on his... Are you still being paid by him at this point?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead. So what at that point, when you say you realize kind of...
Well, I mean, I'm talking about I had wanted to get married and have children. And Epstein had encouraged me to believe that would, I don't know about them, certainly by the late 90s, I knew the marriage part was never going to happen. I had believed that maybe in 96, 97, 98 maybe, but then I realized it wasn't that. But I did think that we might have a child, which was what I had really wanted. I realized...
So what happens between 2001 and then 2019 with your relationship with him?
So...
Give or take 2001.
So we stopped having physicality. Mm-hmm. I mean, that doesn't mean we weren't friends. I certainly did stay sometimes in his room. I mean, friends with benefits, if you will, just not sex. Sorry, just... and I started dating.
Okay.
And I met someone that I fell very much in love with in 2003. His name was Ted Waite. Ted Waite, you may know as the founder of the computers. And we had an amazing relationship that went on until 2010, I think. And I was with Ted from that time.
Did you meet him through Mr. Epstein?
No, well, indirectly, I suppose you could say. So, no, they'd never met. I was at a dinner where I met Ted, but it wasn't. I was with President Clinton. President Clinton was my friend, not Epstein's friend. And Epstein had flown him. And there was a dinner, and Ted came to the dinner. So I guess indirectly through Mr. Epstein, because it was his plane, but I'd have been there anyway without him. It was not
Was
dependent.
Epstein on the plane when you guys flew?
On that trip, yes. Oh, well, yes. Yes.
So when you say the dinner was where?
Hong Kong.
Okay. And so and you had flown over with, so who was on the plane for that trip? I don't mean everybody. When you said, so Mr. Epstein was on the plane?
Yes.
You were on the plane?
Yes.
Who else? That you can remember. I'm not, you only know what you remember.
Was
No.
President Clinton on the plane?
Clinton. He would have had his guy, Doug Vance. Maybe Jason Cooper. Maybe a couple of the two.
And so why, so how do you meet, why do you say that's when you met him and that you met him through Clinton?
Well, I don't think Ted would have been there had it not been it was a President Clinton dinner, and Ted came to be with President Clinton, not to be with Mr. Epstein. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's why I say that.
Okay, so so in the time that you're dating, that you're with him to 2009, are you still working for Mr. Epstein during that time?
It'd be true to say that Jeffrey tried very hard, Mr. Epstein tried very hard to keep me to working for him, because, this is a complex operation. I'm not talking about anything untoward, just the sheer size of the projects. I'm talking the construction projects, the houses, the staff. It's a really significant job. And I ran all the properties, the staff in the property, the management of the properties, and all the construction. And we're talking tens of millions of dollars. The island alone, I can't remember what the budget was for the construction on any given year. It's gone. But these are very significant projects. And so that was what I did, and I managed the budgets. Well, I didn't manage the budgets, I oversaw the budget. So I would just make sure that if you said you bought an air conditioning plant, I saw an air conditioning plant, and I could call the island manager, did you receive the carrier, whatever,
When did Mr. Epstein purchase the island?
I want to say 96 or 97, something like that.
Okay, so we're going to come back and spend more time on the money with respect to Mr. Epstein and his wealth, but just so we can finish this. So in 2009, you end your relationship with Ted?
2009, 2010.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was 10.
Okay.
I don't know.
So in that time period, what happens next as far as your relationship with Mr. Epstein?
I don't have one with him.
You don't have one of him, like, you don't see him, or it's just a different relationship?
I maybe saw him once or twice, or maybe even 3 times. I certainly went to his house once, for sure. Maybe twice. But I was not seeing him. The only time that I was in touch with him was when the things happened, like things in the press that affected me, or when the CVRA case was filed and there was all that rubbish that went out, because I needed information. Because I didn't know anything about what was happening, and I needed his help. This doesn't maybe sound right. Rephrase that. I don't mean his help. I meant to have answers so that I had an ability to defend myself. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking anything.
So when does that relationship change? So you're working. You talked about when the physical relationship stopped, and then you're still working for him or with him, managing his properties and serving as like a general manager. You then start your own relationship with another individual, with Ted, from 2003 till 2009 or 10. At what point in that whole period is there like more of a break where you're no longer acting as his general manager?
I wanted to have a full break when I started dating Ted, and he was clever. I suppose it would be true to say that I sort of viewed Mr. Epstein at that point as sort of family, if you will, like someone I could rely on, and I should have had more confidence in myself. I can see that now, but at the time, given everything that had happened in my life, I thought that it was, and I saw how he was with other people like Eva, who seemed to be very comfortable staying there. I thought this would be, and he always said I was like family, so he worked hard to maintain a relationship with me. He was generous with me. He let me use the plane, for instance, which was very generous. He would check in with my mum. Things that were meaningful to me in that time. And then, it may still not have worked, but that his mother, Paula, had been in a very serious car crash, and she had become sort of like a surrogate mother for me, sort of because my mum wasn't there. I could look after her the way that I would have. The way that I would have liked to look after my own mum. So I became very close to his mother, and she had been in a car crash, and in 2004, I believe, it may have been 5, I don't recall exactly, her health took a serious decline. And Epstein called me and asked me if I could look after her. By looking after her, that meant organizing her doctors, making sure she had new clothes, making sure her house was clean.
Where was she?
She lived in a retirement establishment outside of Palm Beach, it's West Palm. I was going to say something like the Golden Girls, but it's not called that. I just don't remember what it's called. But it was an old age. It was a retirement home, if you will.
Todd, I don't know. We've been going for maybe about an hour now. Do you think, is this a good time?
Yeah. So we'll take a break. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to take a break. The time is 10:56. All right, we're continuing the proper interview with Miss Maxwell. The time is 11:07 a.m. on Thursday, July 24th.
All right. So, just picking up where we just stopped. So you have basically a break. Well, not a break. That's the wrong word. But your relationship with Mr. Maxwell, professional and other, changes in 2003-4.
Yeah, I mean, over the time that I stay with Ted, the more time I'm with Ted, the more distance I have with him. And then when the arrest, well, let's go back, whatever happened in 2005 and he became arrested in 2006.
So when he's charged and arrested in what we'll call the Florida investigations, that's what you're talking about?
I am.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was not in, well,
were you part of that investigation?
Absolutely not.
Did law enforcement ever talk to you as
No.
part of that? Did you, the feds never talked to you?
No.
The FBI never talked to you?
No. I never even received a phone call.
So you didn't receive a subpoena?
No.
Did the state law enforcement ever reach out to you?
No.
As far as you know, did the government, either state or federal, subpoena your bank records or subpoena anything from your financial life during that time, that time?
Not as far as I'm aware. Now, if they did, I don't know it, and I have no idea about that. To be honest, but I'm not aware of it, and I would say no. But maybe you guys do things that I don't know.
So how did you learn of that case? When Mr. Epstein was arrested, or did you know that something was happening before then?
The first thing I knew was he had told me he was deciding to redecorate the house in Palm Beach. didn't surprise me. It was like a rolling situation.
But by that time, are you, like he tells you because he wants your help, or had your relationship changed by this time where you were no longer kind of acting as his general manager?
No, I was still around. I wasn't gone. I was with Ted. I was traveling. I wasn't daily. If you'd asked me where he was in any given time, I'm not sure I would have known then. I mean, it was... I felt like, I suppose the relationship moved into sort of like a long-term friend, family, like I felt he had with Eva, if I'm honest.
Yeah, okay. So he says to you he's going to redecorate the Palm Beach house.
He asked me specifically which decorator he thinks he should use, because I had a lot of contacts with decorators, and he was not very good with people. He was useless at maintaining relationships with people who worked for him. I'm not. So, anyway, so I think I recommended, I can't be 100% sure because it's been a long time, but I think I recommended Mark Zeff at that time.
Who?
Mark Zeff,
okay.
I believe. And I don't know why. I don't remember. That's all lost to time. But anyway, at some point, I think his mother had died now. I can't remember the timing of all of that either.
Okay.
But I ended up in Palm Beach, and he had asked me to come and look at the swatches or whatever he was doing, because they had laid it all out over the house and various things, and I think he'd asked for my opinion. That's my memory of this. It may also be that Ted and I were going to Palm Beach because Ted had a golf match or something. There was a reason I was in Palm Beach. It wasn't solely... maybe that's not true either. I don't know. So
okay.
There's sometimes I went to Palm Beach because Ted was there. I don't know if that's part of that time or not. Or Ted went there and left me. I don't know. Something. Anyway, I was there. No, that's not either. No. Anyway, at some point in that time, I saw all the swatches. At some point in 2005, I think that was. And then, I believe... I don't remember. I think I got a phone call, actually. I wasn't in Palm Beach. I think I got a phone call that there was a police at his house or something. There was a...
And would you have gotten a phone call from him, or you think you just told by somebody that knew that it had happened, or don't you remember?
Definitely not him.
Okay.
I think it would have been the houseman.
So when that happens, whenever it was, that's kind of the first time you know that Mr. Epstein's being investigated for...
I didn't even know I didn't even understand.
Okay.
I didn't have a context for that. It was like, I didn't even know. I didn't know. I didn't... I'm not sure even what I thought. I was like, that's weird.
After you find out about it, what happens with your relationship with him?
I asked him what was going on. And he said, not to worry. Nothing. Taking it, don't worry about it. And I was like, well. And then it all went quiet. He didn't say, he didn't share. I wasn't part of it at all. I was off with Ted, and I really just...
But did he tell you... Well, why don't we come back to more specifics around that time period in a few minutes. I want to just finish this opening part. So that case goes on. Ultimately, it ends. What was your relationship like with him during that case when he goes, when he gets sentenced?
He told me, he said, listen, I'm going to jail. I was like, well, okay. And he goes, I'd like you to stay on board to manage the properties, the animals, this and that, and just stay put, and I'll continue to pay you in case there's any emergency. I don't trust anyone. And I was like, okay.
Well, when you say continue to pay you, he'd
never stopped paying me.
He never stopped paying. So even when your relationship changes, does the amount increase from the $25,000 or so a year in the beginning? Like, how much are you getting paid yearly?
I think it ended at the time. Well, we had different payment structures, and I'm happy to explain how that works. But I think salary-wise, if I'm right, it ended at around $250,000 a year.
How much?
$250,000, $250,000.
And when did it end? When was that it stopped?
2008 or 9.
So
9. When did he come out of jail? Whenever he came out of jail.
Okay. So And over the years, it increased from what you said was you thought about 25,000 to 250,000. That's between like early 90s until 2009 or 10, whenever he stopped. Is that
Yes,
right?
yes.
And how were you paid?
W-2.
W-2 from what company? Or do you?
He, it's like, he just moved me around over to this company, that. I didn't care.
Okay.
And I didn't care, and I didn't think that, I didn't understand any rhyme or reason, and it doesn't, I just, whatever.
Okay,
maybe,
so when he's going to go to jail, he says, "Can you stay around and manage everything?"
Yeah,
And do you do that?
I do.
Okay. And then we'll come back to that.
I will not manage everything, no. I mean, there are other people at this point. My specific role then was very, very diminished. I reviewed the bill structure that came from the constructions that was storming the island.
Okay.
And wherever else I was going, Paris at this point, because I speak French, I'm fluent in French. And also my relationship with the French decorator was critical to him. In the French component part of that aspect was really vital, and so you'd have had to find someone who was, well actually, and the Spanish, trilingual. You would have had to find someone who was trilingual and that he trusted.
Did you...
To not steal from him.
Did you... so when he gets out of jail, between that time, 2009 or 10, and 2019, what's your relationship like with Mr. Epstein?
Almost non-existent.
Why?
I had just moved on, and I just didn't want to have anything I didn't want the drama. I didn't want to be associated with...
So, do you recall... When you say almost non-existent, does that mean
Doesn't mean
some
it
phone calls, some
Definitely.
visits, some trips, or what does it mean?
I don't think there were any trips. Oh, I don't think so.
And where were you living during that time period, or was it
Which time period?
between 2009, 10, and 2019?
I was back in New York.
Okay. So you had no. So you had phone calls with him on occasion?
Yes. Well, I certainly did. Whenever there was any legal drama or any serious press attention, I always called him to try and find out what was going on.
Okay.
And I did email him at that time for those types of details. I was like, what do I do? I was like...
And then when he's charged in New York federally, how did you learn about that case?
In the press.
And had you, as far as you know, been contacted by law enforcement before his arrest?
No. I wasn't in an indictment.
No, I know that, but
Oh.
even as a witness or asking you if you would give documents or materials.
I had never, up until when my lawyers said that, I don't even know, I had no knowledge of them being interested in me. Honestly, I want to say until he had died. Now, I know that my lawyers were in touch with some district of New York at some point after his arrest. I'm pretty sure that had to have happened, right?
Okay.
But my understanding is that they had not shown any interest. I know my lawyers went to see them once, I believe. And
Went to see him, meaning Mr. Epstein?
no, them, the Southern District of New York.
Okay, the Southern New York.
Sorry. And that they had been in touch with them, and...
But now you're talking about after Mr. Epstein died, or are you talking about before he died?
I think...
If you can remember.
It's easily verifiable. My memory is that they were in touch with him when he was arrested.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anything happened until after his death, then after that.
Okay.
I don't think they saw them, met with them, Southern District of New York I'm talking about now, until after he died. I know that they were in regular telephone contact with them, and that my lawyers believed that they had been told that there was no interest in me.
Okay.
And were absolutely stunned when I was arrested. But maybe stunned is too big a word, but surprised. I certainly was.
Okay. So that's was a long description of what was a very long life, and that was very helpful. So I want to go back and talk more specifically now about particular areas, but that was a very helpful kind of foundation for us. The first The first thing I want to talk about, you talked about earlier on about Mr. Epstein's financial success. What, do you know how when you first meet him at some point, you say, I got this place for you to rent, you can't afford it, and he laughs at you and says, yes, I can. What did you learn about his wealth and how he was, and how he accumulated his money?
I can tell you what he told me.
Yes.
So I know that he was hired from working at a private school whose name eludes me at this point. Dalton. He was working at Dalton as a math teacher. And he met, I think it was Ace, I'm not sure. He met someone from Bear who hired him because he was very good at math. And I believe that he then worked on creating a trading of oh my gosh.
Just describe it. It's okay. Go ahead.
He came up with some new type of trading system. Not a system so much, but as a vehicle, a trading vehicle.
Okay.
That I'm just escaping right now.
And this is while he was working at Bear?
At Bear Stearns, yes.
Okay.
And
And was this before you met him?
Yes.
So this is what he told you?
Yes.
And what you learned?
Yes. This is what he told me himself.
And then eventually he starts a financial firm? Did you know that to be true or no? J. Epstein and Company, you ever heard of that?
I think it's, yes. So, hang on a minute. So, this I did not know, but this I have subsequently learned, is that he had some problem or some issue at Bear Stearns, and there was some, disagreement. He wasn't fired, because obviously he was still very friendly with Ace and with Jimmy, at least by the time I met him. But they were working with him, and he had money at Bear Stearns. His money, his client's money. Well, I'll come to that. But he told me himself that he started a business where he looked for stolen money. So if somebody, let's see, trying to think of some intelligent way to say it, but I can't think of anything. I've been with not very. I'll give it to you. So let's say you have El Chapo. God, I don't know where he comes from, but anyway, we've got El Chapo, and El Chapo's laundering money, or he's working with the Sinaloa cartel, and he steals money from the Sinaloa cartel, and he moves it to wherever. So he's got stolen money from the Sinaloa, goes to it. This didn't happen. I'm just just coming up with something in my head. And the Sinaloa says to Epstein, can you track down my $1 billion that the other cartels stole from me? And Epstein will go and find the $1 billion and will take a portion of the money that was stolen as a fee and give back the remainder. That would be on a percentage basis.
No, but like what you just described, which I appreciate, was just a hypothetical.
Please, that was completely hypothetical.
That would involve two kind of drug cartels stealing from each other. Practically speaking, he was more of a businessman.
So
correct?
Here's how I think it started, is that he had a girlfriend. It was always good. You're always to the girls. I guess there was a girl whose name will come back to me. Maybe not whilst we're here, but I don't know, maybe. There's a woman. There's always a woman. And she was the daughter of a billionaire, for instance. And that billionaire, whatever his name was, had some money stolen. And for some reason, this woman introduced Jeffrey, and Jeffrey, I think that's how that business started. That's what I remember.
And is that something he told you about, or something that happened while you knew him?
No, something he told me before I met him.
And so when you meet him, and once you're part of his life in the early to mid-'90s, what is he doing to make money that you see? Does he have clients? Does he have rich clients? Does he have famous clients? And how, and what, if he does have clients, what service is he providing them?
He does have, well, obviously there's the one very famous client that everybody talks about, which is Les Wex now. And that was a very important client to him. And I think it's probably helpful to describe what I know to be true about what he managed for Les. and there's some bits that I'll be improvising.
Yep.
I want to just make you understand I was not part of Epstein's business world, except tangentially and obviously. So what I'm talking about is what I observed, or what I overheard, or what I saw within the business, but I wasn't responsible for any of the client's money or anything like that. So it was separate.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So with Les, for instance, it was really all-encompassing. It could go from the structure of the business. So he structured or restructured the limited. I know that. And I'll come back to that because I also travelled with him and Les. And I was in business meetings with them on the plane when they were there. So I could observe and I could hear some of this. And whilst I'm not necessarily terribly business sophisticated, I'm sophisticated enough to be able to at least have some knowledge of what was happening. All right, so then he restructured the business. He restructured his entire personal finances and would also handle all of the investment strategy. I don't know if it was 100%.
Mr. Wexner, you're saying?
Sorry, yes. This is all Wexner I'm talking about now. So let's say you had $1 billion to invest. So you would, in people's normal investment portfolios, you'd have, some T-bonds and this and that. But Epstein's strategies would be much more sophisticated than that.
And so just staying with Mr. Wexner, does, from what you heard or saw, is Mr. Epstein paid by him in percentages? Like, so there would be a deal and he would be paid, or did you understand it to be like a flat fee? Was he a business partner? Like, how did you understand him to be paid?
I think it was more a la carte. So let's say, this is a conversation actually Epstein told me, so illustrated for me, said if I saved someone $5 billion, he would take a flat percentage of that $5 billion. He wouldn't have $5 billion back.
When you say you think that, is that because you heard him talking about that, or you...
It would be a combination of both. I certainly told me that, and I heard him talk to people like that. I couldn't... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No.
Did Mr. Wexner gift a property in New York to Mr. Epstein?
So we're talking about 71st Street. So I don't know what the business deal was, because again, I'm not part of his business thing, but I think what happened would be, let's say Les owed him, theoretically, for his services, $100 million, or whatever it was. He could have traded that against the property.
But do you know that happened, or do you remember whether there was conversations about that, or are you just thinking that could be one way that it happened?
I'm not sure. And I'm not trying to be, I just don't remember if that's something I know, or if that's something that I remember, or if it's something that I subsequently know. I believe that to be what happened, but I don't want to tell you that I have. Does that make sense?
Did Mr. Wexner and Mr. Epstein, are you aware of their falling out that they ultimately had?
I think I wasn't there, and I don't know how it happened. I only know what Les has said in the press.
So you only know about their falling out, or whatever you want to call it, from what you've kind of read, not from any first-hand knowledge. You weren't there. You weren't part of that.
Correct.
Do you know somebody named Stephen Hoffenberg?
Only from the press.
Okay. And so you don't know anything about whatever business relationship they may have had, Mr. Epstein?
Never spoke about him, never mentioned it. I only learned about that, whatever that is, I don't even know what the truth is of that story, from the press.
How about Leon Black?
Oh, I did meet Leon. I do know Leon.
When do you remember, and again, I know we're talking about a very long time ago, but do you remember approximately when you met him?
I could have met Leon, not really. So I might have met him, nothing to do, because Leon Black is very good friends with other friends of mine. I would have met him, when I say socially, I might have met him. how Leon and Epstein became really good friends, I'm not sure.
But not through you, as far as you recall.
Not through me, as far as I know, no. In fact, I'm sure that's not through me.
Do you know what kind of work Mr. Epstein was doing for Mr. Black over the years?
Same as what he did for Wexner.
So, we just talked about two individuals. And again, I know we're talking about maybe a 15-year time period or even longer. How many clients like that did Mr. Epstein have?
Well, why don't I just give you the names that I remember? And that's,
Say it again?
Why won't I just give you the names?
Yeah.
Do you want the names?
No, sure. Go ahead.
Elizabeth Johnson, Johnson & Johnson.
When did, as far as you know, when did the relationship between Ms. Johnson and Mr. Epstein start?
90s. 95, 96.
So during the time period?
Yes, we're talking 90s. We're talking when I was there, when I was around.
How did the relationship start?
I don't know how he became that friendly boy. He ended up managing her money. I wasn't there. I mean, I really had a separate life. We really had separate lives.
Okay.
Except where they segged.
But it wasn't from...
It wasn't from me.
From you?
No, it was not.
Okay. And what's your understanding of what Mr. Epstein did for Ms. Johnson?
Same as what he did for Wexner. And when you have to understand, it went down to in tiny detail. So I remember, this is an actual memory, that he would make the contracts for the maids, for the people who worked in their homes.
So he would assist his clients at times with, you're saying, with even small things like contractual relationships.
He said no
with
detail was too small, because everything that affected how they lived and how they managed their life was something that he felt he was, if they wanted, would be responsible for, to make sure that the contract, so that if you had to fire someone, it wouldn't come back and sue you, or if that sort of thing.
Okay, so Mr. Black, Mr. Werner, Miss Johnson, who else?
What's the name of the woman from Ohio?
There's someone named Jess Staley.
Yeah, I do know Jess.
Who's that?
He was at Morgan Stanley and at Barclays.
What do you know whether he and Mr. Epstein had a relationship?
Well, not a physical one.
I didn't suggest it. No, I'm saying a relationship in the broadest sense of the word. Business, personal,
Yes.
Both? Okay.
Yes, both.
Okay. And do you know when they met?
No, I don't know when they met. But you can time it. Well, I don't know that you can. No, I don't know.
So, but what was the nature of their relationship as far as you know?
I think they were friends, and I think that they were business partners. Well, partners, too strong a word, but they did business together.
So, did you... Again, I want to stay focused on the time when you were the most involved in his life. So,
the 90s.
The early 90s through early 2000s.
And the beginning of the 2000s, yes.
Did you... so we talked about 4 people. So
There's more.
Were there more? Okay.
Oh, yes, there were more. There was a lady whose name I just can't... Can I get my book? Maybe I wrote them down.
Sure.
Wait, where are my books? Epstein wouldn't really let me meet his clients.
What book are you using? What is that?
I'd write some notes for the meeting.
Okay, great.
Is that right?
No, that's fine. I just was curious what we're looking at.
Oh, okay.
Not the birthday book.
It's not the
No,
birthday
we're
book.
going to come to that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. I wrote down some names because I tried to make... I just want you to understand my memory's not as good as it was, because when I was in Brooklyn, I was in the SHU for almost 2 years, and I was on suicide watch for almost 2 years, which meant that they woke me up every 15 minutes for the entire time, and it really did affect my ability to...
Understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not...
So you've taken some notes.
I
in
just made some
anticipation.
names in
Yeah, okay.
advance
So go ahead.
of it,
So,
and you're happy to look at them.
no, go ahead.
Okay. Well, funny you should know. First 2 names. 1 is Wexner, 2 is Staley, 3 is Leon Black.
Okay.
Glenn Dubin was a
Okay.
client.
Who's that?
Eva Dubin's husband.
Okay. What was there? I mean, if you can, do you know when that relationship
Whenever,
started?
well, wouldn't have been before they got married for sure. So we're going to date that from wherever that was. And then Epstein was heavily involved with Highbridge Capital and the financing or selling of Highbridge to JP Morgan.
Okay. Go ahead. Has a Dublin? Yep.
Okay, you're only looking for clients, so... All right, there's a woman, there's a woman in Ohio. I just can't think of her name, but I tried to remember it yesterday and I can't.
So this is a good thing, like, as you think of things, write it down, and if they have any other names, they'll ask you. But
Right.
don't force it out. So you'll have time to think about this, especially today, this afternoon, overnight, because we'll
Right.
probably meet tomorrow.
But you can find them. I mean, if you basically find a billionaire, female,
So there's a woman in Ohio who's wealthy.
well,
that he
you can
worked with.
identify her yourself because she had the largest Klein painting. It was huge, so you can find her because it'll be in the
Okay.
museum. So that's her.
And so that was one of Mr. Epstein's clients. She was
Yes.
one of Mr. Epstein's clients as
Yes.
well. Okay. Who else?
Well, I think that there was other people that he would assist. I know that he helped Lynn Forrester, who became Linda Rothschild. She'll deny it, and she has, but she can't.
And when you say help, the same
Well,
help in business or what help?
No, I have no idea what he did for her. I know he helped her financially. Her husband was the controller of New York. So, but I don't. Again, I'm not inside his business. But he would have this notion that he blackmailed men. We don't really have to go there. That he wasn't a businessman and that everything he did was a fraud or a funk or whatever. I don't believe that to be true.
Why?
Sorry?
Why do you? So you say you don't believe it to be true, but show me why you think that.
Okay.
Just from I know you've been talking about it, that he was very conscientious. He was very good at math. He paid a lot of attention to his clients. But yes, you're right. There's allegations of blackmail, or also that there was some level of fraud involved in what he did, and you don't believe it. Why do you say that?
Well, let me rephrase that. If there was fraud, I never saw it. What I saw or what I felt when I ran that office. I was responsible for the staff. People worked. There were lawyers. There were accountants. I never heard him. I never felt anything. I don't know, icky.
Did you ever see him blackmail
Never.
a client? Did
No.
you ever see him blackmail a friend or an acquaintance?
Never.
Well, so I think when folks talk about blackmail, and we can talk about. Oh, sorry about
Sorry.
that. We can talk about that now. There are a lot of allegations about him, which we should talk about, and we can do that now. And the fact that he abused young women.
Yes.
Full stop. Okay, which means the way that I'm defining abuse, as has been widely reported, is that he would cause young women in high school to be recruited to come to his house and give them massages, and as part of that, he would sexually abuse them. Okay,
Yes.
so I want to talk about that. But as it relates to blackmail, the question is whether you're aware of any time that any of the individuals we're talking about, and we'll talk about others, received massages from women who were under 18 or may have been under 18, and that whether there was any sexual assaults or sexual contact between any of these people and those masseuses, which would have allowed then Mr. Epstein potentially to blackmail them and say, you have to continue to work with me, or you have to give me money, or else I'm going to tell the world that you did this.
Right. I think this is a really good place to start with how this story began.
Okay.
So, let's assume that premise is correct, that he was doing that and he was going to tell everybody, going to say, you had inappropriate relations with an underage girl, if you don't have video or photographic evidence, because I'm not sure that even the FBI would take that, well, maybe today, but certainly not back then, would take that seriously. So you have to have something to say, hey, look, I've got this video of you doing terrible things, and you need to. So I built those houses, many of them. I decorated those houses. I put the electricians in for the wiring. I never wired nor saw a single house that had any type of inappropriate, let's say, video surveillance, and I'll define that for you. Inappropriate surveillance would mean in a bathroom, in a bedroom, in any private area of a home.
In a room where there were massages given.
Inappropriate. I would say I would define appropriate surveillance to be the front door of a house, or potentially, as in 71st Street, the physical plant. Anywhere else would be grotesque.
So I just want to come back to, I know I'm just hopefully saying the obvious, but when you say the houses, you're talking about his New York
Yes.
brownstone.
Yes.
You're talking about the island in the Caribbean.
Yes.
You're talking about the residence in Palm Beach.
Yes.
And you're talking about the ranch in New Mexico.
Yes.
Anywhere else?
Paris.
And in Paris. And so...
And the plane. I saw some ridiculous thing with a plane that was,
okay.
Well, mind you, yes. I didn't hire any electrician on the plane.
So unequivocally, from what you know, and you only know what you know.
I only know what I know.
But from what you know, you do not believe a camera exists, or a video camera, or a camera that takes pictures inside any of his residences.
Correct.
So even the appropriate cameras that you just talked about, which would be kind of exterior security cameras, did you know whether there was any cameras that you're aware of inside any of the locations?
Never. With one exception.
Okay. What's the exception?
The exception is Palm Beach.
Okay.
And the reason, so in Palm Beach, Epstein was having money stolen. He noticed money was being stolen from his briefcase, call it his briefcase. And he called in the Palm Beach police, and the Palm Beach police, installed cameras on where he kept his briefcase.
Where was that? Do you remember?
At his desk. So the house on the ground floor was, he had a desk sort of in a corner. There was that camera. I think there was another camera. I think there were 2 or maybe 3 cameras. I believe only on the ground floor, wherever he may have had. Maybe he had another office in the cabana. There may have been a camera there.
When was this? I'm not looking for an exact date, but what time period are you thinking about when you say
2003. I think I can date it for you precisely, actually. 2003, I'm pretty firm on that date. And I can be firm because John Alessi, the butler, was fired in the end of 2002, and he was the thief.
So aside from law enforcement installing a camera to try to catch somebody stealing money from Mr. Epstein, you're not aware of any cameras at the island? No? Sorry, just so we record it. No,
sorry.
No, that's okay. You were nodding your head no. So what about...
No cameras anywhere outside of possibly things that I would consider normal. So the garage gate, something like that, a front door.
Outside, like security cameras.
Security cameras. And there were cameras inside in the 71st Street that did the plant, the physical plant, because it was a commercial building. So you had the whole, that's a real thing, that's a commercial building. And there was one camera on the front door, from the internal that did the front door, as I recall. But there were no other cameras inside the house.
Did you ever, how about photographs? Did you ever observe Mr. Epstein or anybody around him take pictures of anybody in compromising positions with women or with anybody?
No.
Did you ever hear, when you were present for conversations that Mr. Epstein was having or others were having, anybody accuse him of blackmailing them or of trying to extort them because of something Mr. Epstein knew?
No.
There have been, and you in the discovery you got in the New York case, okay?
Yes.
And in the civil cases that you've been part of associated with Mr. Epstein, have you ever been given or ever been told that video exists like what we're talking about, or photos were taken that were compromising?
So in both of those, I received no pictures or anything from the civil case.
Mm-hmm.
But in the criminal case, I received videos of Epstein talking to women and stuff like that. I did get those. I also saw binders of photographs of women. Indeterminate. I never saw any. Well, I don't know how old some of these women were. There were definitely some of the victims from Palm Beach. The photographs of them without clothing.
In those photographs, were the victims that were photographed, were there any of the people you've talked about, like were there men with the victims, or were they just photographs of the victims?
There was no men with these pictures. There was no client of his with those pictures. They would be standalone, for want of a better word, like modeling shots. If you were, I don't know.
Pictures that Epstein had with the girls, but not Epstein with the clients and the girls.
Correct.
Did you? I understand you said you got those in the discovery. Did you know those pictures like that existed? So right now I'm talking about photographs of victims or photographs of women that Mr. Epstein had on his computer or wherever he had them. Did you know that those photos existed before you got them in discovery?
Some of them, absolutely, because they were in his house. Some of these pictures were on his, credenza or whatever.
Okay.
Some pictures I'd simply never seen before. I mean, I'd never seen some of them. Some of them I had, some of them I hadn't. I mean...
Did you... So you're right, and I accept that having video or photographs of somebody famous or powerful in a compromising position would be good blackmail. But, so separate, putting aside what you've said about the fact that you don't know of any existence of those, did you observe over the years the folks we're talking about, or others, which we can talk about, getting massages from young women?
So I think it's really helpful to understand a few things that has been missed in this whole mishigas.
That's a technical term.
I'll look it up later. Go ahead.
I've thought about this obviously a lot, and I've given it some. So this is the benefit of some benefit of what I saw and some benefit of what I now think. So just for clarity's sake, I just want to say for the record that I do believe that Epstein did a lot of, not all, but some of what he's accused of, and I'm not here to defend him in any respect whatsoever. I don't want to, and I don't think he requires nor deserves any type of protection or for me in any way to sugarcoat what he did or didn't do. So there's that. However, the man I met and the man he became, I believe that there is a progression. And I don't think that the man I met is the man that he became. I believe he became that man over a period of time. Now, we can discuss anything you want, and I'll tell you everything I know. But I think somebody who has an interest, however you define that, in underage people is obviously someone who is unwell. But I don't think that you wake up one day and you start doing what he's accused of. I think this is something that you develop or you progress to. I think. Because
Glenn, before you get into all that, let's answer the top line question and then get into it.
Okay, the top line question is...
Did you ever see any of these people with underage
No.
women?
So the reason I'm saying that is not to avoid that question, but it's because by the time when you were talking in the 90s, I don't think he was there. That description, I think that what you were talking about is a later version.
Yeah, and
Is that?
No, I understand that, and I do want to talk. I'm not.
So it's just I think you need to separate the periods of time.
Sure.
Because one of the things that was definitely missing in my trial and definitely missing from the narrative is this notion, everything happened and he was always no, I don't believe that to be true.
So that's fine, and I do want to talk about that. I'm not pushing that away. I'm just putting it aside for a moment. What Mr. Epstein did, and frankly what you did or are accused of doing, is one thing that we'll talk about. But right now what I want to understand is whether one of the ways that Mr. Epstein befriended his clients or took care of them, or some would say blackmailed them, was by encouraging them to interact with women, underage or not.
So I think in the 90s he may have encouraged them, but these were people who were in their 20s or 30s.
So
he would have a masseuse, right? And he did, male and female, by the way, in the 90s. It's never been discussed. Both in yoga and everything, there were men as well as women. And so if he would travel, and I can show them to you, I highlighted them on the flight record so you could see that there really were men that were also there. He would say, would you like to do yoga with Tito, or would you like a massage with this one? But they would be in their late 20s and professional masseuses.
So
I think there's a distinction.
And I want to talk about actual individuals here, and I understand the distinction between somebody who's an adult and someone who's underage. But even with somebody who's an adult, did you know Mr. Epstein to encourage folks to do that, whether it's a client or somebody else?
I certainly witnessed him. So if you were staying with him and you had a massage, that he would often travel with a masseuse. He would say, hey, would you like a massage? And he did do that, yes.
But would you or him or anybody else follow up with the masseuse afterwards to find out if there was any inappropriate sexual contact?
I never did, no.
So meaning, and then coming back to the blackmail issue, there's nothing wrong with getting a massage, of course not, especially especially if somebody's obviously an adult and masseuse. I'm not quibbling with that. But my question is that there's a lot of accusations that one of the way Mr. Epstein was successful was through this idea of blackmail. Yes, young women and is a crime. Children is a crime.
Absolutely.
But even women over the age of 18, if Mr. Epstein encouraged these men or whomever to get massages and have inappropriate sexual contact with the masseuses, that's a separate issue, maybe slightly nuanced. But did you ever know him to do that?
I never did, absolutely, myself. I never heard him ask someone. I never heard that. No one, in the entire time I was with him or friends with him or had anyone, no one ever reported to me or came to me and said that anything inappropriate happened or was upset by it. I never saw tears. I never saw, ever, any of that.
And when you say no one ever reported to me, meaning like the masseuses or
Never.
any of the house staff?
Never.
Or the clients?
Or the clients themselves?
Never.
Okay. So let's, again, I want to stay, and coming back now to what you were talking about a moment ago with Mr. Epstein's kind of progression or getting worse, so just staying within the 90s, what role did you have, or what did you observe, which are two different issues but both important, with respect to recruiting masseuses to come to either, I guess, Palm Beach or to travel or eventually New Mexico? What role did you have in that?
He asked me to find masseuses for him.
Say it again?
He asked me if I could find him masseuses.
Like as part of, like you said, you were his general manager. So as part of all your duties, that was one of them.
And I did do that. So the first person I believe that I introduced him to as a masseuse was somebody called. She was, I don't know, late 20s, professional masseuse.
Was this something that happened early on in your relationship, or? And again, I know we're talking about the 90s, but are we talking about early 90s, or is this later on?
So, in terms of massage, I've had a lot of injuries. I do a lot of dangerous sports, and have had multiple serious accidents, and walk without any lameness because of physical therapy and massage. That to me is it's medicinal for me. So Epstein, whatever his massage situation, whatever, he loved massage. And if I met somebody who I thought was a good masseuse or masseur, I introduced them. And because I got them and he asked me if I did, and I said yes. And I'm pretty sure that would have, well, I don't remember. 93, 92,
Okay.
From the beginning.
So go ahead. So then what happens over the next, there's a ton of writing and a ton of, I guess, testimony as well, but also public reporting about how the recruiting was a very aggressive effort that you were a part of, that he was a part of, and others, to try to find more and more masseuses. What is that true, and what role did you have in that?
That is partially true.
Okay.
So it is true that I found masseuses, and he became more insistent. He like knew all the time. He got bored, so he would be bored with other masseuse, and he would say, "Find me a new masseuse." I am the entire opposite. If I find someone that I like, I stay with them. I'm like, I don't want new. He would drive for new, so that is true. And in my effort to find them, I would go to massage spas, like legitimate spas. We're not talking, funky ones that people have. So, if I got a massage from somebody in a spa that I liked. I asked them if they would do home visits. If they said yes, I would ask them to come to the house, and he would see if he liked them or not. But these were people who worked in spas. I never ever checked their age, and I never checked their credentials. I never asked for a certificate.
What?
But just to be clear, you never thought anybody was under 18?
I never crossed. Okay. No, that was never that was never a drive.
What did you know at the time about him, Mr. Epstein, requiring masseuses to be naked, or requiring masseuses to either perform sexual favors for Mr. Epstein, or to be there if Mr. Epstein masturbated, or things like that? And again, I'm asking you about a 15-year period or whatever, 10-year period. So I appreciate it's a very broad question. So answer it in a way that, addresses what you've been charged with doing, but also what's been said about you.
Okay, so the 90s, I don't think that I ever thought, that never would cross my mind. I'm not sure that I thought about that in those contexts at all until his arrest and those papers came out. But I believe the subject of the question that you're asking me, I believe started in the 2000s.
In the 2000 time period.
Yeah, 2000.
Why do you think, like, what in your mind makes you think that that's the time that it started?
I think because in December of 2001 he met, and I think was responsible for that in its entirety. And the reason I believe that, so she was a self-confessed, having been sexually abused as a young girl, and was trained, her words I'm quoting now, not mine, in all the arts of whatever that is, the sex program, by a man called Ron Eppinger, who was her pimp from when she was 14, I believe, or 15, I don't know. And in her book describes him training her to be what every man wants in all its manners, fellatio and everything else. I believe that then what happened was that he met her and she came as a masseuse to his house in December of 2001 is when I think it started. Now what their relationship was and what happened with them in that early period of time I cannot say. What I can say is that he liked her and she started to travel with him at that time period. I know then what happened was that when she first started to see him, or first came into his orbit as his masseuse or whatever, she was engaged to be married and wearing an engagement ring and was living with her fiancé. She broke up after a few months with her fiancé and took up with the local drug dealer. So let's say after 4 or 5 months in the time period when she was seeing Epstein, let's say we're now May, June of 2002, or is it 2000? From whenever she hits the, whatever that is, if that's 2000, I think it's 2000, I'm sorry. I think it's when she met him, December of 2000. So then you go through, I don't remember, you'll have to look.
Okay. I'm not holding you to exact date.
No, I mean, I'm just trying to, I'm giving the, so then I think, so she takes up with the local drug dealer and she becomes druggy. Like, you know how druggies, well maybe you don't. I live with a lot in Tallahassee. They become even more unreliable than normal. And at some point, she's now working somewhere else. He stops seeing her because he doesn't like people who do drugs. And I think that not seeing her lasted 5 or 6 months. And in that period of time, she got arrested for theft. And she had a warrant out for her arrest. Now this I've pieced together because this piece I didn't know. She then called Epstein to have help avoiding the warrant for her arrest, and he sent her to Thailand to get a massage therapy license. This is the bit that I guess. This is the bit that I extrapolated. In the period of time from when she came back to when she left, he asked her to replace herself as his masseuse or whatever she was doing, and she brought the first replacement for her that would have been one of the accusers in my case, I think, would have been, and then everyone who came subsequent, simultaneously, if she wasn't the first, I don't know, every single person who came to his house came through, and her boyfriend Tony, and then whoever else underneath her. And that is how it started.
So before her...
Tony Figueroa
is her boyfriend.
Before her, so now going back into the 90s, you don't believe that Mr. Epstein was abusing masseuses?
Underage.
Or overage. I mean, I think, well, I'm using abuse in the broadest sense of the word because I'm assuming that you said that you have no idea over the years. You always assumed the masseuses were overage, right? So when I'm talking about abuse, I'm even talking about an adult masseuse who comes in to give a massage and is told to take off their clothes, told they're not going to get paid if they don't take off their clothes, basically suggested they had to watch him masturbate, like the things that have been publicly said about what he did. I'm not distinguishing adults or young or underage women for that. I'm saying abuse.
I'm going to think that would have been a habit.
Okay.
I'm going to say that the massage game was a habit.
What does that mean?
That means that I'm sure that he didn't suddenly start having relations with masseuses in 2002.
Okay.
I'm sure he must have had relations with masseuses who knows when.
But you're saying, as far as I used the word abuse, you're saying that as far as you sit here today, you would describe that more as consensual, meaning the masseuse did this willingly.
I saw him with lots of masseuses. I never saw a single masseuse ever look unhappy or not come back or whatever. So based on my observation, I don't think that if you are being raped, as now he's like this prolific, I just can't imagine why you would return.
It's not what you observed at the time.
Not what I observed at the time, no.
We're going to spend more time on this issue because I think it's important. But just going back to kind of the question that I started with in this area, which is that it ties into the blackmail issue. So we talked about people that were his clients, and you've mentioned President Clinton, and then early on.
Oh, I never said he was a client.
I did not say you said. I'm saying when you talk about his clients.
Oh, okay, right.
And then put his clients off to the side, and then you mentioned some other people. You mentioned President Clinton. You mentioned President Trump early on. Who were other famous / politicians? Who were other individuals in Mr. Epstein's life during that time period? So the early 90s.
It was the 90s. Should we just?
Yes.
Okay, Congressman Macmillan.
Say it again.
Macmillan.
Okay.
Henry Rozovsky, who was the provost of Harvard. Hang on, can I?
Sure. You're looking at your notes. Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Joe Pagano, Jerry Goldsmith, Joe Roberts, Kenny Lipper, Dan Abramson. I don't know if in the 90s Tom Pritzker, Ace, Jimmy Kane, Lou Ranieri. I mean, there were.
What about the royal family?
No, he didn't know them in the 90s.
What about what about Prince Andrew?
Didn't know him in the 90s.
When?
Oh, well, is that right?
I wasn't there. I do not know. So I don't want you to worry about exact dates. You're not positive about that, but you don't have a specific recollection of that being in the 90s.
No.
Okay.
I can date it for you, I think. But I can't give you.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's fine. So with respect to and we'll take a break in a minute to get some food. But just with respect to with respect to the individuals you just talked about, so again, focus on the 90s. And so the people that I'm talking about right now, and we might add some names later. So we're talking about the clients that he worked with, which you've mentioned several of, and I know that wasn't exhaustive, but you mentioned several of them. And then the kind of what I called famous friends, but the prominent individuals that were in his life in the 90s. Does any stick out in your mind as having received massages? All of them.
Henry Rozovsky received a massage.
And why does that stick out in your memory?
Because I saw him in a bathrobe at 71st Street, and he had received a massage, he told me.
And do you know whether there was any, whether the masseuse was naked during that massage?
I wouldn't have any idea.
Do you know whether
I doubt it. He was like in his 80s.
Say it again?
I doubt it. He was like in his 80s.
Okay, so, but do you know, notwithstanding his age?
Minsky.
Say it again?
Minsky was another person.
Do you know whether, for example, President Clinton ever received a massage?
I don't believe he did.
And what makes you say you don't believe he did?
Well, because I don't, so that's a good question. The time that Epstein and President Clinton spent together, the only times I believe, well, obviously they traveled. There was that, they went on the plane 26 times or whatever. That would be one journey. So they spent time on the plane together, and I don't believe there was ever a massage on the plane. So that would have been the only time that I think that President Clinton could have even received a massage, and he didn't, because I was there.
And you mentioned that early, in the very beginning of the conversation, you mentioned President Trump in the early 90s.
Yes.
What did you observe as far as President Trump and his relationship with you or Mr. Epstein?
Well, I just want to say for my relationship with President Trump, relationship's a big word, but I just want to say that I met him, or I believe I may have, because of my father in the 90s.
Yep. Okay.
So my father liked him very much, and he really liked his wife as well, because they were both Czechoslovakian. And as far as I'm concerned, President Trump was always very cordial and very kind to me, and I just want to say that I admire his extraordinary achievement in becoming the president now, and I like him, and I've always liked him. So that is the sum and substance of my entire relationship with him.
What about Mr. Epstein's relationship with him?
I don't know how they met, and I don't know how they became friends. I certainly saw them together, and I remember the few times I observed them together that they were friendly. I mean,
Was that in
friendly.
social settings or was that in private settings?
I believe I only ever saw them in social settings. I don't recall any private settings.
Have you ever been to Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach?
I have.
And what time period are you thinking about when you say yes?
I don't remember when the president purchased Mar-a-Lago, so from whenever it turned into a club, I went there, and I loved going there.
Did you go there alone or with Mr. Epstein?
Mostly alone. Only times I went there was for an event, maybe once or twice.
And do you know whether Mr. Epstein ever went there?
I believe he did, but again, we really were. He didn't take me with him all the time, so he would go and. Oh, right. Well, he did from time to time, but he would go alone. I think he would maybe go himself to the spa. I certainly did.
Did you ever observe President Trump receive a massage?
Never.
Did you ever observe? You said that have you seen there's photographs, public photographs of Mr. Epstein and President Trump together?
Yes.
And there's photographs of, I think you're in some of the photographs as well. Those all appear to be social settings.
Yes. That's my memory. There were social settings. I don't know Epstein's, if he had, whatever the nature of the president's friendship, if you will, or however you want to define that with Epstein, I was never witness. I think they were friendly, like people are in social settings. I don't think they were close friends, or I certainly never witnessed the president in any of. I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
When's the last time you think you saw in person President Trump?
It's been a long time. Probably not. Sometime in the beginning, mid 2000s maybe, and it would only have been a social setting, as far as I recall.
And did you ever hear Mr. Epstein or anybody say that President Trump had done anything inappropriate with masseuses or with anybody in your world?
Absolutely never. In any context.
Do you know whether masseuses from Mar-a-Lago spa ended up giving massages to private massages to Mr. Epstein? And I'm not asking for what you may have read, but at the time, from your personal knowledge, do you know whether that's true?
I don't recall. Is it possible? Yes, but I don't remember that. So I don't recall that, but it's possible.
Do you have recollection of you ever recruiting a masseuse from Mar-a-Lago spa to go give a private massage to Mr. Epstein?
I've never recruited a masseuse from Mar-a-Lago for that, as far as I remember. I can't ever recollect doing that.
Okay, so what I think we should do now, it's about 12:15. We'll take a break, and we will come back in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Good afternoon. We are continuing the recorded proffer interview of Ms. Maxwell. The time is 12:59, Thursday, July 24th.
Okay, so just continuing what we were talking about, Ms. Maxwell, still focused on the 90s time period, with understanding that could spill over into the early 2000s, but still that part of your of your life with Mr. Epstein. There's been public reporting about conduct by Mr. Epstein and others at Little St. James.
Yes.
So can you talk about the frequency with which you went there and address some of those, some of the reporting, namely around young masseuses or young women who would be present, and what you observed relating to them, and then I'll ask questions around that.
So, if I'm right, he purchased the island in 1996, and he was friendly with the owners, and originally we went to the island as guests of the owners, and then I guess at some point the owners told him they wanted to sell, and he decided to purchase it. So the island was very rustic. I loved it. He, of course, had completely different ideas. And I would say there was none of what you were describing at that early period of time. So the frequency was often on the island, because he loved it. He really, really loved it. And we would go all the time. Mostly, all the early phase was based on improvements that could be made on the island, always going with new architects, new designers, new construction people. I'd say the first 2 years, almost every trip, not everyone, but almost every trip contained an individual who would be brought on board to have an opinion as to how to I don't want to use the word improve the island, because I don't think you could improve it, but to I can't think what the word would be, to what's the word I'm looking for? To develop it. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for. Develop the island. That's the word I'm looking for. So there were trips, constant trips, with that in mind. And I would say now, if we're moving to the late 90s, 96, 97, I definitely witnessed a progression in Mr. Epstein's behavior, and a modification, if you will, where in the past, in the early 90s, I don't remember traveling so much with other people, or there'd be a masseuse or a yoga person, but now he started to travel with always a masseuse, whereas in the past it wasn't always a masseuse or always an instructor. There was now starting to be always an individual or a friend or whatever. There's always maybe the word would be entourage. But these were always people in their 20s, late 20s, early 30s, as my memory sees it, as I observed that time. And he tasked me with finding a local masseuse for him in St. Thomas, because sometimes, even though I say he would always travel with an entourage, sometimes he didn't, and he wanted to have a massage locally. So I visited the spas that were local in St. Thomas and in St. John. And if I met someone, a man or a woman actually, because it was difficult to find somebody in St. Thomas, it's not exactly, so, and I did find a couple of people who would come, so that's how they came. Because also it was a schlep, so if you had somebody who came, it would be, you'd have to, boat ride and several hours. It wasn't just it's not like arriving with your massage table and stuff, so there was that. So I did do that.
So did, over the years, males also give massages to Mr. Epstein?
Yes. I did say, I don't think, at the beginning, definitely, and I would say towards sort of, again, late 90s, I don't remember any men. They were at the beginning, I think, in that, towards the late 90s, I cannot think of any men, I only think of women.
Did you, well, you talk about entourage flying, right now we're talking about to the island. Did you observe any sexual I was going to say misconduct, but any sex at all whatsoever on the plane?
Never on the plane, no.
Was there a part of the plane that was closed off from others where Mr. Epstein could go and get a massage or
Yeah.
whatever?
Okay, so that's a good question. So there were two planes. So you had there was a Gulfstream, and that's open plan. So anything, I mean, there was a sofa that turned into a bed, and he did sleep on that. And then, but in the Boeing, which he flew on a lot, there was his area could be closed off with a door, and behind that door there was a bedroom and an office. So if that door was shut, you wouldn't see it.
But but you never observed Mr. Epstein engaging in sex or getting a massage with somebody where the masseuse was not clothed on the plane?
I can't say that. I might have.
Okay.
I definitely might have, either both in the Gulfstream or in the
Okay.
I'm sure I did, but it's not. I can't.
That's fair.
Okay.
Um,
I'm absolutely sure I did. I must have, because he was so obsessed with someone rubbing his feet, or just when you ask me about massage, I just want to be clear. I generally what I think of that is somebody on a massage table, but other people might think of it as something different. You could have someone rubbing his feet or his shoulder. I saw that all the time. That I did, but that's separate from being on a massage table.
How, again, I know we're talking about a decade-long period, but during the period we're talking about, in a 7-day week, how often would Mr. Epstein get a massage?
In the 90s, when we're talking, he would get one every day. I think as that time progressed, he would get one maybe twice a day. I do want to say that there was maybe a reason that things altered or morphed or progressed, and it is maybe part of the reason also that he and I our relationship, or however somebody wants to call it, altered, and he started doing testosterone, and that altered his character. And I believe that started in the late 90s. And I believe that the FBI has his medical records, and you may see that on his medical records.
So you believe that he started taking testosterone in the 90s, and when you say that altered his behavior, you're saying it made him get more massages, or that was just one part of what changed about him?
Well, he became more aggressive.
Nice.
And I think that he may be, now I'm just imagining that the testosterone altered his desires or something. Does that...
And so when, given what you've said the past couple hours about his kind of progression or change, let's focus on that time period. So more towards the late 90s,
yeah, okay.
So 96, 97, 98. When you've said that he changed, did you know flat out that he was having sex or otherwise some sort of sexual conduct with masseuses regularly?
Flat out, no. I denied that. I couldn't imagine that he would. But I think, looking back now, that I did not. But I started to suspect that he was not faithful. Seems ludicrous, but that's what I thought.
But if he's flying from Palm Beach to St. Thomas, or if he's flying all over the country to New Mexico or to New York, or even in Palm Beach, and there's young women, putting aside whether they're under the age of 18 or in their 20s, every day at the house, multiple masseuses, multiple massages on some days, you're interacting with the masseuses constantly. or maybe that's not right.
That's not right.
Let me take back what I just said. Ignore that part. But you understand that he's getting massages every day, sometimes multiple times a day. By the late 90s, it's all women. Presumably, they're some of them are new, but they're also repeat masseuses. What did you? I mean, you had to know at that point that there was something going on beyond just he really needed to get massaged.
Very fair question. There's two things. The first is the person that he saw the most at that period of time was in her 40s. Mm-hmm. And she was with him all the time. And I'm like, married as well.
Yeah.
And I'm square. And it never occurred, well, I don't believe it occurred to me at the time that with this woman he would be having relations. And he was with her. That was the person he had the most massages, yoga, and that with at that time, in the 90s period. The second thing is that he told me he had difficulty having an erection. And I believed him.
When you said he said that, you mean he regularly told you that? Like
when I didn't have sex with him after the first time, and it took, so I asked him, was it me? And he told me it was him. And I'd never, up until this moment in my life, I'm not stupid, I'm very bright. I've had an excellent education. I travelled all over the world. I had had boyfriends. But I had never met or understood that somebody could be so, would lie to me about. It never occurred to me. I didn't have a frame of context within my life experience where somebody would be so manipulative and devious with me. And plus I just didn't have, and I was happy not to have sex because I have a condition that doesn't lend itself to that.
Does, when you learned, so fast forward just for a moment to the 2007-8-9 time period, and he's arrested and charged, and there's all kinds of press around his purported contact. At that point, did you accept that that was true? Meaning, did it make sense at that point when you were reading about women who claimed that they had been abused, even underage? And at that point, did you think to yourself, well, geez, that makes sense now that I think about it, or no?
First of all, I only read what was in the newspapers. I didn't have any other thing, and I'm embarrassed to say I didn't believe it.
Okay. Right. I mean, you didn't believe that the accusations were true at the time.
No.
Yeah. So let's...
And sorry, I need to say, even if they were true, I believe that he was duped and he didn't know that they were, whatever was in the papers at that time, whether they said that they were 17 or it didn't register. Because along with all of those, well, not in 2006, but later when the more salacious and other allegations came out, I knew were utterly false, which then just reinforced my belief that the rest was not true.
Let me ask you a question about the age of the masseuses over the years. I think in my mind, there's a difference between you knowing or not knowing that a masseuse is under the age of 18 and coming to give a massage, and you knowing that Mr. Epstein, sexually abused the underage person or made her strip or something like that. Meaning, and I want to understand whether you believe that nobody that came to give massages, none of the women were under 18, or that you didn't focus on their age, but you were more focused on whether any underage woman was abused by him.
I think I think it's better to answer this question with corroborating evidence and then go back and explain so that I frame your understanding of what I'm saying. My understanding is that in 2008, they had interviewed 44 women, let's say, or around that number. Mm-hmm. Oh, you have to understand, not a single one of those 44 women mentioned me in a single report. And it's not because... Go back. They didn't mention me in the report because they never met me, they never saw me, and they never interacted with me. So, to go back to your question, it's not that I thought one way or another, it's that I didn't see them.
Okay. I see. Okay.
Does that...
Yeah, no, that's helpful. So...
But when I say not one single one of those reports talks about me. And I just want to clarify exactly, because I'm obviously aware that one of those girls was one of the witnesses in my trial, specifically. To use her own testimony so that you don't have to hear my point of view, it's better if it comes from her own words, and that way there's no second guessing whether what I'm saying. Herself said that recruited her, brought her, and trained her. Those are own words. Where was I going with this?
Well, that you didn't know. I mean, I assume.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, sorry, I'm trying to remember the words.
It's okay.
I really do have some slow cognition issues.
So she testifies that it was that recruited her and trained her, and not you.
So then in her first FBI meeting, she reports seeing a woman with short dark hair at the house, which then is used as evidence that that person was myself. But the maid lady who helped keep the house, John Alessi's wife, with an accent, I believe she said. John Alessi's wife had short dark hair and an accent. I'm sorry, but I find, and you can ask yourselves this, I mean, I've obviously modified my accent. I've been in America a long time, but I'm British. I've been brought up with a very strong British accent. And I don't believe there's American on planet Earth that doesn't recognize this to be British or Australian, maybe, if you really don't know. But it's not some random accent. Now, the Hispanic, maybe, okay. That was John's wife that she saw, not me. And I'd like to point out further how you potentially through her own words, she identified...
Why don't we stop there and let them ask the next question? Yeah,
so,
okay.
So just, and look, I want to try to, I think probably tomorrow I want to talk more about kind of the evidence against you and how to address that. So
sorry.
No, don't apologize. That's helpful, but I don't want you to be burdened. I want you to just tell the truth the best you can. So I don't want you to be burdened by what people said at trial or what the press says about you.
I just thought it was illustrative when you asked me the question, because it doesn't. I did not. I absolutely have no memory at any. Now I'm leaving separate to this, obviously, so that's a separate story. I'm not going to pretend. Well, we'll
get to.
Yes,
go ahead.
But in the terms of the scheme or whatever, however you want to determine what you're calling that, I have no memory, no active anything of having seen anybody that resembles a child, let's call it what it is, at that house giving him a massage. At all. It's not even like I did this. It's an at all. And 44 people didn't see me or talk about me either, including.
Did and when you say that house.
Oh, sorry, Palm Beach.
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean, but does the same memory or lack thereof apply to on planes in New Mexico, in New York,
well, with some other important caveats. On that, Bajorlin Jane in my trial was clearly underage, clearly a child, and I only saw her in Palm Beach, and I only saw her with her mother. The other person who was clearly also not an adult or even close, I believe, I remember her now, but that would be the only two, or three, whatever that is.
So, did you ever know Mr. Epstein to communicate with FBI agents, either like intelligence FBI agents, like as a source, or just generally with FBI agents?
No.
Do you think if he had done that, you would have known, like he would have told you something like that? Like if I said to you, Mr. Epstein was a source for the FBI, would you say, that's crazy, no he wasn't? Or maybe he was, he would have told me that anyway?
I have two answers for that. I think if he was for real, I think he would have bragged about it to me as a show-off, because he could be a show-off. And if he wasn't, he might have dropped it like he was cool. And I don't remember him doing either. Now, with, again, the caveat that before I met him, finding money, I think he may have suggested that there were some people who helped him, but that's the only context that I recall that in.
What do you mean by that? When you said finding money, what do you mean?
Well, his business where remember I told you, mm-hmm. I think in that context, he showed me a photograph that he had with some African warlords or something that he told me, and, you know, I don't remember if that's what I interpreted, like that kind of thing, or whether it was something like that. That's the only actual active memory I have of something nefarious. Well, nefarious, I don't even know if it was nefarious, but covert, I suppose, would be the word.
And what about any other intelligence agency, like the CIA or Defense Intelligence or any other law enforcement agency?
Okay. I don't think so. I think that I don't remember anything like that. I just don't think he had the wherewithal, and I think that whole aspect of that is... Can I use a bad word?
Yes.
Yes.
Bullshit.
Okay. And what do you think is bullshit? Meaning, what do you mean?
Would you have known if he was? Would he have been bragging to you? Would he have been saying these things?
I think he was, because I think. Well, sorry. I think that. I think one of the reasons why he liked me was because of my family connections, and why he liked other people was because they were cool or whatever. And I think that certainly early when I met him, he would have tried to impress me, or tried to show off, if you will, like he was that guy, you know. And he wasn't that guy. And so, and I think that he would have tried to bullshit me, and he didn't. So I think it's... he may have tried to bullshit me, but no, I couldn't.
Right.
Sorry.
So I want to just shift for a few minutes to talk about post-2000 to kind of when your relationship changed over the years with him. Did there come a time when Mr. Epstein did meet members of the royal family?
Yes.
When was that?
So I need to go back, because I think I may have misspoke.
Okay.
Well, I didn't misspeak, but it's something that I had forgotten.
Yeah.
Before I met Epstein, he lived in London for a period of time. I don't know for how long. And he met and knew some truly fancy people, like people, high society people. That included Princess Diana's best friend. Her name was Rosa Monckton. And Rosa's husband, Dominic Lawson, who's a famous journalist, actually he's a very well-known journalist. And when I and he was friends with the Barings Bank, and he had like the sort of
That was you're
before
talking
he
about
met me.
before, so in the
80s.
80s.
Yes, he was dating Eva Anderson, Miss Sweden, I think. I don't know when she became Miss Sweden.
Okay, so earlier when you said that he met them later, you
Yes.
think he may have met some members of the royal family, or certainly British high society?
He met, I don't know about the royal family, but certainly high society.
Okay.
And the reason why I know this is because this is a documentable thing, whatever. There's a photograph that can give you the date, because I don't remember what the date is of this. So there's something that will peg whatever this date is. I don't remember when that is. Epstein went to London without me. He often went everywhere without me, but he was in London without me, which was decently unusual because London's my hometown. But anyway, he went without me, and he went to a big event in. I think it was in the park. Anyway, it was a big event. It's on the news. It's like there's photographs of it, and I don't know if he sat with Diana or he met Diana or he'd already met her. I don't know, but this I believe was organised by Rosa, and so I don't know if she was being set up as a date for him, maybe, because I don't want to speak bad of Diana, but I'm not going to do
Okay,
that.
so that was pre-meeting you.
No, that was when that event happened when we were.
Oh, okay, that was numbered.
No, it's when we were.
Okay.
I'm not going to say together, but
Okay.
how about this? When I was his employee.
Okay.
Better.
So now moving back to the 2000s, there come a time when Mr. Epstein met Prince Andrew?
Yes.
And others in the royal family, or just Prince Andrew, as far as you know?
Well, so as much as I can piece it together, first of all, let's just state I did not introduce him to Prince Andrew. I did not introduce him to Prince Andrew or to Sarah Ferguson. That is a flat untruth. I'll start with that. So now I'm going to tell you how he did actually meet him. So if you find me that photograph, I can date that time when he met Princess Diana at that event. And based on that, I'll be able to tell you if it's pre or post that event, because I haven't looked it up and I've never bothered to check. So Lynn Forrester, who was a client or some type of client, or I think she actually tried to date him, or might have dated him for the record. She was in... Do you want to ask me something?
No, go ahead.
Okay, she was, she had a house, or she rented a house in the Vineyard. I think it was in the Vineyard or Nantucket. I can't remember now which one it was. It was one of those. It's either Nantucket or the Vineyard. And invited Epstein to go. And I believe that's when he met Prince Andrew. However, I believe that before that event, he had gone to the Bahamas and had hung out with Sarah Ferguson. And Sarah had called Epstein and had arranged with Lynn, or I don't know now, I'm speculating. Anyway, long and short, he met Andrew at there.
And I'm not holding you to an exact date, but when
But we can
approximately
date
was
it
that?
from that picture, if you find me the picture.
But do you know, without looking at a photo, in your mind, approximately when was that?
I want to say it was 2000, no, probably 2001, 2002.
Early 2000s.
Yes.
And I think it was actually Prince Andrew himself who suggested that he met Jeffrey Epstein through you.
I think that's true. So, well,
It's true that Andrew said that.
yeah, no, I'm sure it's true. Because I'm English, and my close friends are all close friends with Sarah and Andrew. And I would not say that I was close friends with Andrew before, but certainly we were friendly, and certainly his best friends, some of them were very, very close with me. And I think that my friendship, me being present, or me, is what made Andrew like Jeffrey more, trust him, or I think that's
So you
maybe
don't
it.
dispute that
that you kind of had a role in getting together. You're just saying you didn't say, Prince,
I
here's
would never
Jeffrey.
have introduced them. It would never have occurred to me to introduce them. I couldn't imagine them being friends. Two chalk and cheeses would never. I mean, for real, there's nothing there to connect them. So he met Prince Andrew, and then he had a relationship. I don't like that word. It sounds clunky. They had a
Acquaintanceship.
Thank you. And through Sarah, actually. I think Sarah is the one that pushed that. And they met and hung out, I want to say 2 or 3 times. That had nothing to do with me. I wasn't communicating with Andrew. I wasn't in touch with him. And I know this because I was annoyed. And I felt left out. And I felt disrespected. And I was like, this is weird. I couldn't even imagine Epstein and Andrew together. And I thought that Sarah was trying to put the moves on Jeffrey, if I'm being honest. And I thought the whole thing was annoying. And I was pissed.
So what happened with their relationship, putting aside the publicity around Prince Andrew's purported relationship with... what happened, as far as you know, with Prince Andrew and Mr. Epstein's relationship from the times you just described?
Okay, so after that, at some point, Epstein told me that Andrew was coming to New York and I needed to organize the whole thing. That's classic, by the way, classic Epstein. Of course, if I was like, all right, fine, whatever. And because he wanted to make sure that Andrew was taken care of and that he was comfortable, he had whatever he needed, and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, well, am I going to meet him, or are you just going to have me do all the job? And he said, well, you can come and say hello. Right, wow. Well, that's so nice of you, for real. Because you have to understand, like, I don't know if I told you this before, but I did not have the keys to his house. I was not allowed to go to his house unless I was summoned or told. I was not allowed to answer his phones. We can go there. But anyway, so this, we can tell this a bit of a sore point, perhaps. Anyway, so Andrew came, and of course, the minute we got together, I was like, yay, hi! And then it was so nice because the difference of being in England with Prince Andrew versus being in New York without all the bullshit was insane. And our friendship just like lit up like this. Because first of all, he knew that I'm safe. I mean safe as in I'm not, Nigel Dempster or taking a page. Not in a million years would I do something so gross. And we honestly got on like a house on fire. I really liked him a lot. And it was so nice. And we just became really, really good friends. Much more so than when we were in London, if I'm honest.
And then with respect to and Prince Andrew, what do you know about that relationship?
Would you like to ask that again? Relationship's a big word. Like I said, I don't like the word. Let's just start there. Okay. So I have read... I just want to, piece together...
Well, but don't say... Before you say what you read, because that's one of the problems, is that we're all kind of...
All right. What I know...
We're all informed by, all the publicity and information around what everybody else has said, but, what do you think? Or what did you see?
Well,
what did you hear?
What's an even bigger word than bullshit?
Okay. Why? Well, go ahead, but finish that thought. Why do you think that?
I'm going to tell you right now. I'm so happy to tell you. I'm excited. I'm beyond excited. Okay, so there's a mixture of what I've actually seen and know from the evidence and versus what I've put together. Impossible for me at this point to separate everything, but I'll tell you what I know versus what I saw and what I physically have in here. But it's helpful for you to know. So, the allegation, I have to go with the allegation. The allegation was that at my house in London in March, whatever that was, 2001, I believe, we went to London especially so that could have a relationship with Prince Andrew, and she was paid a vast amount of money for that purpose. Okay. And that she then got in my bathroom in my house in London and had sexual relations with him, and then went into my guest room and had full-blown sex, and then left my house. Oh, he left and she felt used and disgusting. And a photograph was taken of them just before all these events took place in my study. That is what is the story. Oh, and then after that, she met him several other times, but we'll come to that. This is where it will allegedly started.
And they went to Tram.
Oh, right. We went to a nightclub that night. Oh, we went to dinner, right? We went to dinner and then to Tram. Okay, so the first thing about that weekend, that specific weekend, was that it's my mum's 80th birthday and I was in the country. And I have some corroborating evidence for that and a lot of testimonial that you can check. So that takes care of one of the reasons why her story doesn't hold water. The second reason why, so by the way, when I say that, my mum turned 80th that actual weekend. It was her birthday, it's on March the 11th. And the reason why I went to London, and I presume, but I don't remember, is why when we were, so the whole trip started because of Alberto Pinto, who is the decorator for the island and for New York as well. And he had wanted Epstein to go to see a house in Marrakesh, if I remember rightly, and went via the Alhambra. It was also for New Mexico. So there's architectural pieces that contain, and that was the basis of that trip. And I suspect now that that trip was planned all around the fact that I was going to be in London no matter what for my mum's 80th birthday at my brother's house in the country, which is approximately an hour outside of London, an hour and a half outside of London, at my brother's home. And we all congregated on the Saturday for her birthday celebration on the Sunday, and then we left. So that's that. The second reason why, probably maybe even the more important reason than my mum's birthday, that I think it's absolute rubbish, is that Prince Andrew, the idea of him doing anything of that nature in my house that's the size of this room is so mind-blowingly not conceivable to me as the man, or what I can't even. No.
Is there any way that it could have happened?
No.
Okay.
Describe the physical plan.
Oh, the physical. So my house was tiny. I think it's 900 square feet in total. Well, maybe that. Is that right? Maybe 9. It is on 3 floors, however. So you're talking about it's a jewel. It used to be a stable for a horse. It was the stables for the big houses. It was the little poor man's home behind the rich man's home. It's a jewel. Was a gorgeous little place, but it is the size of a nut. If you make a noise, let's say you did a little burp or something, you'd hear it. It just, where she says that they had relations in a bathroom, first of all, the bath is an old Victorian bath. I'm quite small. It's tight for me. I put my brother in there to see what would happen, and it looks like a blivet, which is a sausage in a layer, very tight skin. So her description of whatever the two people were doing in the tub, that would work. The bathroom itself is so small you can't lie flat on the floor, so it couldn't happen on the floor because you physically can't. This bathroom is too small to even be on the floor. And then the kicker of all kickers is that because the bathroom was so small, I decorated it to try and make it look huge, which meant that I put mirrors the whole way around it. And what was so fun about being in there is that if you stood in the bathroom, you saw like 100 of you, like you do if you were in
a fun house. Yeah,
well, Alice in Wonderland, or one of those things that you would see yourself going stretching everything. And it's the image. If you said you were, let's say for telling the truth, she could say she was having sex with 5,000 generations of the royal family, because that's how far back you could see yourself. There is no way in God's green earth, if that had taken place, that this is something that you would miss, because you can miss it. If you were standing there now, you'd see the whole of the FBI, the whole of the Department of Justice standing behind you. It's like, no.
Did you...
Also explain where the tap was in the bathtub.
Oh, well, it's an old... I had a tap. So if you were in... God forbid, if you were in the tub... This was the tub. My tap would be here. I think... No.
So you think it's kind of logistically and physically not something that could have
Well, there's
happened.
that. And there's just... Andrew would... He's so... English. He's so... He had a tie on.
Do you think there's any way it could have happened or no?
Absolutely,
Okay, so
no way, no how, absolutely not. Wait, I haven't finished. So, on her...
No, no.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It is me.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead. Go. Finish, please. Go ahead.
Sorry, can I finish? Sorry. When all this nonsense took place, where this whole story with the picture and the this and the that and this bullshit, I believe that this whole thing was manufactured, and I can point you to some potentially corroborating evidence of this. So when she gave the photograph to the FBI in Australia...
Just to be clear, the photograph you're talking about the famous one
Yeah,
where...
I have an image of it
where
here.
Prince Andrew's holding and you're in the background.
The fake. Just to be clear. So, on the back of that, and this is in the Discovery, by the way. I don't know if it's in... I don't know which Discovery I saw it in now, but this... She wrote in the back that it was a picture that was taken in January of 2000 on 2000 or 2001, I don't remember.
Okay.
So now, in her handwriting that she's giving the FBI this picture, suddenly now it's March. So how do you go from her writing it's January to March? It's because that's the only one that fit with the flight logs, that when she could be in London and this took place. The second thing is that, I'm so excited to tell you this. There is a journalist. I know you guys quite... I don't know. The fake news is at work here. So there's a journalist called Sharon Churcher. There is a lawyer called Brad Edwards. These two, and there is a Southern District of Florida prosecutor called Villafana. I would very much look forward to showing you the relationship between these three parties that created that story.
Why? Well, without putting aside the relationship, why do you think they created that story?
I believe that story was created for the purposes of... Well, there are multiple. The first one is financial. The second one is for the purposes of the CVRA case. The third one was for the serialization both of her book and in the papers for the story to attack the royal family. And just as a...
So, I think when you were just asked about the photo, you said you actually thought the photo was fake. Do you think it was just misdated, or do you think it's literally a fake photo?
I believe it's literally a fake photo.
Why do you think that?
Well, first of all, I don't remember it. We'll start.
But
right,
you...
okay, but the outfit I'm wearing is the outfit from my mum's birthday party.
So, but you don't have any... Do you dispute that they met each other?
Do you know whether they've met each other?
I do not know that they met.
Okay, so you not only... So you think the photograph is fake, but you also are not even positive they actually ever met each other?
I am not.
So you don't have a specific recollection of kind of being at an event or a party or your apartment or your flat in London with Prince Andrew and...
Absolutely not.
She doesn't know one way or the other.
I understand that,
I
yeah.
want you to know that the reason why I'm not hesitant. I don't have any memory of that. So that's not the issue. The issue is, could Andrew have come to the house to see me or see Epstein and say hi and she had been there? Yes. I can't say that didn't happen. But what I can absolutely categorically say is that I never at any time set Andrew up to have relations with her or any other human being ever. And I can categorically state that her characterization of whatever may or may not have happened physically would just no. And plus, I was in the country, so all of that's just not conceivable.
Did you attend... Did you attend social parties over... And again, I really now am focused on 2000 plus, so not the early years, where Mr. Epstein would host a party or be a big part of the hosting of the party, and some of, or many of the young women who were masseuses would be invited to the party as guests or as entertainment.
I certainly went to his house when he would have people who would be there that were, I call them, the way I would think of it and I would characterize it were his entourage. That's how I thought about it. And that certainly was in the later 2000s, yes.
Did you attend any weddings of famous people with Mr. Epstein? Again, I'm mostly focused on post 2000, but if there's something that comes to mind in the 90s, that's fine as well.
A wedding?
Weddings.
With Epstein? I don't think I ever went to a wedding with Epstein. I can't think of a wedding that I ever went to with him.
Do you know, so you don't remember, you didn't attend President Clinton's daughter's wedding?
I did.
Chelsea Clinton's?
I
But that wasn't with Mr. Epstein?
No, it was with Ted Wade, my boyfriend.
Say it again?
With Ted Wade, my boyfriend.
Okay. Do you know whether Mr. Epstein was at that wedding?
He was not.
And how did you have a relationship? Well, why did you get invited to that wedding?
Because Ted and Clinton were very close.
And how were you close to them? Like, what was the reason you were close to them?
I met President Clinton. First of all, I went to the White House with Epstein once for, I think it was for a historical, like one of those benefits. And I met the president then, but like 1,000 other people shook his hand. Then after that, I had a good friend of mine that was known to be the mayor of Miami Beach, Philip Levine. And Philip and the president were very good friends. And Philip and I were very good friends, and so I actually was introduced to the president post his coming out of the White House and became friendly with him because of Philip Levine.
Because of what?
Philip Levine.
There's some names that have been publicly associated with Mr. Epstein that I just want to ask you if you know about. Piers Morgan.
Is friendly with who?
With Mr. Epstein.
I have no idea. Never. I doubt it.
Yeah, there's no trick question. I'm not
okay.
I'm not suggesting that I know the answer to it. I'm genuinely just asking.
Well, I would be astonished. I can't imagine they'd have anything in common either.
How about...
Were you friends with Piers Morgan?
I've met him. I met him at an event in Manhattan. I can't remember what. More recently, so probably in 2012, 30, something in that, and we had a very nice conversation. So I remember that. I remember thinking, I don't remember if I'd ever met him before, but I remember thinking how nice he was and how I was surprised. So I liked him. What can I tell you? So that's the only memory I have of that. I'm not sure if that's correct, but that's what I think.
I don't have a correct or incorrect.
No, I just don't
want
know.
you to tell the
I
truth.
just want to try and.
No, but I want you to believe me, because I mean this. There is so much information in the public sphere about you and Mr. Epstein and others around, and some of it is definitely true, and some of it is definitely false.
Okay, all right.
So when I ask a question, if I think that you're not being honest or that you're missing something, I'm not. This isn't got you.
Okay.
I'll say that to you. Did you ever meet JFK Jr.?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever meet JFK Jr.?
Yes.
When was that?
I met him at Andrew Cuomo's wedding. No, Kerry's wedding. Kerry's wedding. Who did Kerry marry? Andrew Cuomo. Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Andrew Cuomo's wedding in.
And when would that have been approximately?
1990.
So before or
1989. Something like that.
but would that have been before you
Or
met
maybe-
Mr. Epstein?
Yes.
Did you have any sort of professional or social relationship with John F. Kennedy Jr.?
I fancied him.
You what?
I thought he was very attractive.
Oh, you fancied him.
Sorry.
Aside from finding him attractive and fancying him, did you have any sort of, social relationship with him?
I mean, we knew each other, and I thought he was wonderful and fun, and I enjoyed meeting him. But we went out. I wanted to say we had a dinner or two, but I was very excited. But that was it.
And then Alan Dershowitz.
What's the question with Alan?
Do you say it again?
What's the question?
Do you know Mr. Dershowitz?
Yes.
Do you know whether he knew Mr. Epstein? Do you know the nature of their
Okay.
relationship?
I definitely do know Alan. I'm just trying to remember if I knew him. I'm trying to remember how I met him, and
Okay.
I met him separate from Epstein. I don't remember, so
Okay.
that I have no recollection. I remember. I know that he was Epstein's lawyer. I don't know if they had any relationship prior to that. I don't remember. Oh, I do actually. Sorry. I think they met at the same Martha's Vineyard through Lynn Forrester. Now, I think that's what happened. I think that's it.
And why do you think that?
Because it just popped in my head.
Okay. And did you you said that Mr. Dershowitz was Mr. Epstein's attorney. Do you know whether they also socialized?
So my personal memory of when I remember I have two distinct memories with Alan. One is with him and his wife at the island, and I absolutely remember that. And I remember, I think going to his house in Boston, if he had a house in Boston. Those are the only two times I remember.
Did you ever observe Mr. Dershowitz doing anything inappropriate with young women around Mr. Epstein?
Never.
Did you ever hear did anybody ever tell you that he had done anything inappropriate?
Absolutely not.
Do you know one way or the other whether Mr. Dershowitz ever got a massage at the island or any of the locations that he was at with Mr. Epstein?
I don't remember anything about him ever getting a massage. I don't ever have any recollection. I don't believe I ever even saw him in a bathroom. I have no knowledge of that.
I'm jumping around a little bit. You mentioned, I think, briefly, but the Terra Mar project?
Yes.
What is that?
I founded Terramar the idea of Terramar came, I think, in 2010. So I want to just explain Terramar a little bit. So Ted and I bought a boat. Well, Ted bought the boat. And the basis of the boat was to do explorations and sea exploratory stuff. This really started because I have had since I was a child a love of the ocean and everything aquatic, and I've always been I'm nervous about the state of the ocean. When Ted and we worked with National Geographic, and we did exploratory work, and the most exciting, we did many exciting things, but one of the most fabulous ones that we did was we looked for Amelia Earhart twice. I did 2 expeditions to look for Amelia Earhart as an example of an exploration that we did. And he had a foundation for the ocean, and we worked with Nat Geo, we worked with Woods Hole, we did amazing things. He bought the Remus 6000, so when the plane went missing, the plane that went, was it Air France, from Brazil to Paris, then went down, it was the Remus 6000 that found that plane. It's one of those deep sea underexplorers. Anyway, when I broke up with Ted, one of the things I did not want to give up was my love of the ocean and everything that we did. And Terramar, the genesis of Terramar came from that. So Terramar obviously means land, sea, and the story of the ocean is that Earth really shouldn't be called Earth; it should be called ocean, because 3/4 is the ocean. So I wanted to not clash with anything to do with Ted, because it was a bit awkward between us, and so he took all the part of the ocean that was close to land, so within 200 miles, and so I decided I would focus on all the part of the ocean that was outside of national borders, Terramar, and that's the genesis of Terramar.
So what was the time period of that?
That, I think, after I broke up with Ted, so 2010, 11 is when it started, and then I ran it all the way up until whenever the Epstein drama struck, and then I just shut it down. I shut it down because I didn't want what was happening to hurt the Smithsonian or Nat Geo or I just couldn't let everything be hurt by what was happening to me.
Do you know Jean-Luc Brunel?
Yes.
How do you know him?
I met him, so when I told you I was working for the European for my dad, and I was in
so
charge.
Back in like early 90s.
Yeah, and I was running a magazine. One of the things in the magazine is fashion, and so I was going to some fashion shows, and I was looking for fashion sponsorship. And in fact, when I came to America, one of the first sponsors that I got for it was Ron Perlman at Revlon, who was great. And I met Jean-Luc through just in Paris like that, but socially not.
Did Mr. Epstein know him as well? Did you later learn whether they knew each other?
I'm not sure. He would have. Epstein had his own fashion situation, so he would have. He didn't meet Jean-Luc through me.
Did you ever observe them together over the years?
Absolutely, yeah. I saw them many times together.
Did he visit the island? Did
Yes.
he go to Palm Beach House?
Yeah, he went everywhere. I saw him in every place.
Do you ever observe him getting a massage? Or do you ever know whether they got a massage? Maybe you didn't observe it personally? You don't remember?
I don't know. I mean, I have no conscious memory of Jean-Luc. I would imagine that he did, but I don't see it.
How about Mr. Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein?
What would you like to know?
Do you know him?
Yes.
How do you know him? Like, I guess when I say how do you know him, is it a relation you had kind of separate from Mr. Epstein, or did you meet him through Mr. Epstein or?
I wouldn't. First of all, I wouldn't say I had any type of relationship with Harvey Weinstein.
Okay.
In any context. Socially, I would meet him because I would go to events that Harvey would be at, and also his wife was English back then, Georgina. And I was, friendly also would be a big word, more of acquaintance. So we would see each other, and I would go to Miramax events. But there was a couple of people who worked for Harvey who I was friendly with. His primary producer, whose name is Meryl Poster, who I was friendly with, and yeah. So,
do you know whether Mr. Epstein had his own relationship with Mr. Weinstein?
he did.
Did they socialize together at the island or in Palm Beach or New Mexico?
I never saw Harvey at any of Epstein's houses. So socialized, I don't know that they were friends. I mean, I can't see them together either. I mean, literally. But I know that they certainly do that. I would imagine, and in fact, I think I have a memory, but I can't, that when Harvey was trying to raise money for whatever his business was called, I can't remember what his business was called. Maybe he went there because Epstein was good at raising money. I just don't know. But I never saw them. I don't recall seeing Harvey in any of the properties.
Let's just go a few more minutes and take a break. I know it's after lunch. So we talked several hours ago about your father and his business a little bit. After your father passed, do you know whether Mr. Epstein was involved in your family business that you know of?
Absolutely not. In any respect. First of all, there was no family business left. Start with that problem. And the second one is, my family didn't like him very much. And they were busy dealing with their own problems, and there was no relationship whatsoever. Oh, I mean, my mum and he got along quite well. That was it. But she's an old lady. And, he was nice to her.
We're now being a little repetitive, but you're confident that before you met Mr. Epstein, he didn't know your father, and so he wouldn't have done business with your father's companies in the 80s either.
Absolutely not. I'm 100% sure of that. I never met him, I never saw him, I never heard his name. No, nothing.
So, there's been a lot of conversations about whether Mr. Epstein maintained like a list of people, like a book of famous people that he knew, it's called a black book or a client list or a list. Did you know of the existence of any such list?
There is no list. We'll start with that. The genesis of that story I can actually trace for you from its absolute inception, if that is what you're interested in.
Well, first, to be sure, there is no list, there's no client list, nothing like that.
No, there's nothing like that.
That you know.
That I obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you say you think you know the genesis, so go ahead, tell us.
I'd like you to know that I have brought some supporting corroborative evidence.
Well, tell me what it is,
Well, why
too, and
don't
then
you
we'll get the
tell it
corroboration.
first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this? Do you want to take a break here? Because this is a long.
It's a long story.
Yeah,
let's take a break. Yeah, let's take a break.
All right, the time is 2:03, and we're going to take a break right now. All right, we're resuming the recorded proffer of Ms. Maxwell. It is 2:16 on Thursday, July 24th. And the recording device is now on.
So when we stopped to take a break, we were talking about what has been publicly discussed as a black book or the Epstein list, and that's where we are. So you said you think you might know, or that you're aware of kind of the origin of this narrative.
All right. I just want to reiterate again, there is no list that I am aware of. I've never, at any time, at least during the period of time when I was present.
Okay.
The origin of this story, I believe, begins, or it has a beginning in 2009, and then it has a prequel, but we have to start in 2009. In 2009, there is Epstein is, I think, out of jail, and there are civil suits taking place. Many of these are coming out of a disgraced law firm, Rothstein, Rosenfeld and Adler. At that law firm is a lawyer who started there in April, May 2009, called Brad Edwards. In 2009, allegedly, the FBI gets a call in October of 2009 from Brad Edwards. He allegedly tells them that he has come across a piece of evidence that belongs to Epstein that contains a list of all of his clients and victims, underage girls, massage therapists, and and the men who are having sex with them. And Brad Edwards becomes a cooperating witness, confidential informant for them, and in a sting operation obtains the list from a former butler of Epstein's called Alfredo Rodriguez. And it becomes evidence in the civil suit. Alfredo Rodriguez is subsequently prosecuted for having an AK-47 or something weird, some guns or something, and goes to trial, and there's a criminal complaint that the FBI produce, and in that criminal complaint it says that Brad Edwards became aware of the list, but we'll call it the list for the purposes of this, after Alfredo Rodriguez's 2 depositions that are held in Epstein's civil suit. It's in the FBI's affidavit that the evidence was collected, and Brad Edwards became aware of it after the 2nd deposition. It's in the criminal complaint. The truth is different from what's in both the criminal complaint and in that FBI affidavit, and in Brad Edwards' own statements on the subject. The truth is that Alfredo Rodriguez was deposed twice, once in July and once in August. And in the July deposition, told Brad Edwards that he had handwritten notes or a journal or whatever in the deposition. And Brad Edwards replies, well, we're going to come back for a 2nd deposition. And the 2nd deposition takes place in August. What this means is that Brad Edwards had access to the list from sometime between July and August until when he actually called the FBI in October. So we're talking 6 months or so. Rothstein's firm was raided a few days after the list went into the FBI's hands, and subsequently Rothstein himself was prosecuted for RICO and I believe went to jail for 50 years. As part of that RICO case, he admitted to, on the record, and was, I don't know whether he was prosecuted for creating fake settlements and fake evidence in Epstein's case. In 2009, simultaneously whilst this was going on, my boyfriend, Ted Waite, was asked for $10 million to keep me out of any of Epstein's civil suits. Up until then, I had not been in any of Epstein's civil suits. In fact, I wasn't even sure, save for the first time I was mentioned was by I was basically nowhere. And then Ted was called for this $10 million and had been shown, his people had been shown evidence that included the list, the flight logs, and various other pieces of evidence. Now we're going to the prequel part of this story, so then it can tie to how this starts. In 2007, Epstein signs the non-prosecution agreement. He then fights the prosecution agreement or debates it through the DOJ or whatever happened there, and goes to the court in 2008 when it's accepted or whatever that is. Villafana was the lead prosecutor, in that case, and she, I think, was not happy with the outcome, and utilized at that time Brad Edwards to file the CVRA case. Now, what I have managed to understand from this is within the OPR itself there is evidence. There it says that Brad Edwards was the only lawyer that she was allowed to talk to, so I just want to preface that. The reason why I know that she went behind Acosta's back and everything else to do this is because Brad Edwards, in a podcast, made the revelation. What he says is that he'd never heard of the CVRA case before, and Villafana called him and told him to file it. The sole purpose of the CVRA was to overturn the non-prosecution agreement. So what I believe is that Villafana worked with Brad Edwards, who she had also he was the lawyer that she had selected as a pro bono lawyer for some of the victims. And he was also working for Rothstein's firm that was under RICO investigation for that entire time, creating fake evidence in Epstein's case. And she had just filed hidden, secret, using Edwards to overturn the NPA by filing this CVRA case. That sole purpose was to overturn it. And so when he approached her with the list, this was part of the effort to utilize and find new evidence to support the overturning either of the NPA and or of a new case against Epstein. Because Brad Edwards, or I don't know if it was Brad Edwards, because Rothstein's firm asked my then boyfriend for $10 million to kick me out of suits that I had no knowledge of at that time whatsoever, I now know that the base of this story was a blackmail of a billionaire, because Ted Waite was a multi-billionaire. He had everything. He was way, way more wealthy than Epstein, if anyone cares. And that is the reason why Ted and I broke up. What was the basis of it?
So,
and that list was created, so then the masseuses that were on that list, I had never heard of some of them. I not even from the civil suits that had come up since I've seen it. This is me now knowing what's in the list today. And I believe that, Alfredo Rodriguez, so there's a metamorphosis of this list. So the original statement that Brad Edwards makes that's in the documents contemporaneously is that it's pieces of paper that Alfredo has. It then morphs into something that Alfredo took, a book that Alfredo took from Epstein's computer, but there's no computer, I know, certainly not in 2005 when this was allegedly taken, that came out as a book. And then it morphed into, at the civil time of my civil cases, into a book that was taken from my computer. And then it morphed into the Southern District of New York as a combination list of mine and Epstein's. That is a metamorphosis through documents that you can trace.
So there, in your mind, well, from what you just described, there is a list. It's just manufactured. I mean, have you seen the list even fake? Like, do you know?
I haven't seen it, but
So
what
I was confused.
So I guess my thing is that what Brad Edwards says in all of these things is in the paperwork and whatnot. And then, so all this story is basically controlled by 5 people. There's 4 alleged victims that speak about the list and the blackmail and the men and the sex and whatnot. And the lawyers, and now the prosecutors, sorry, the Southern District of New York for sure. But no one else. None of these stories carry from any of the 44 alleged original victims. They never ever say that they were farmed out to anybody.
But the list itself?
Yes.
Where is it?
There is no list, but Brad Edwards said that he created the list. Sorry, he created a list. So in that book that Alfredo Rodriguez produced that became evidence, Exhibit 52 in my trial, it has markings all over it, circles and dots and whatnot. And Brad Edwards says that he got Alfredo Rodriguez to mark up the book of all the people who were involved. It includes Alan Dershowitz, for the record, who's marked. I don't remember what it does with Donald Trump. I don't know. You'd have to look. I don't have it. But I believe, so what he did, he marked up, I don't know who, somebody marked up that book of names, and I think all the names of the people that they went for were originally selected between 2 sources. One was this alleged book of names, and one was also from the telephone logs that were collected from the house in Palm Beach. And just to finish it off, there is a note, I have some papers for you if you wanted them, where Brad Edwards says that he has a list of 25 men that he got money off.
So the list that everybody, the black book, the list, what you're saying is that your Exhibit 52 from your trial, which is like more of an address book or Rolodex type thing, that Mr. Rodriguez, Alfredo Rodriguez, your understanding is that somewhere along the way he went through and kind of marked that list to
I don't know where that book actually comes from.
Okay.
I don't know what that book is. That book is some type of a compilation, but what it is it's just pieces of paper with type. So if you could have made a list. I could put. So rude,
but you're referring to something that's been public for a long. I mean, if we're thinking about the same thing, you're talking about you're right. It's like a bunch of different types of paper. or whatever. I only have a copy of it, but with big parts of it redacted publicly because
Yes.
people's addresses and
Yes,
whatnot
that's what
on
I'm
it.
talking about.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
oh, perfect. Yes. So you will find.
We're looking at Exhibit 52 now.
Okay, so you're looking at Exhibit 52. So the one they produced, the Southern District of New York actually produced a book for me to see it as evidence, the actual thing it was. And it has marks, it has tabs, it has things, it has names I've never seen. It had like that list of that list was basically the names that they choose to produce at trial. Now, in Rothstein Adler's firm, I also have some documents where Rothstein, his original scheme at Rothstein Adler was to place prostitutes. He had a bar, a dancey bar, where he had girls, and I believe he would use them and put them as fake secretaries in people's offices, and then she might touch him or he might touch her or something, and boom, he got $25,000 for that. And those girls, and I'm not saying that those are the girls that came in Epstein's case necessarily, but
But again, so we're separating the evidence that came in at your trial and what you just talked about with Brad Edwards and Mr. Rodriguez. During the time that you were with Mr. Epstein, and even in the 2000s when you were around less frequently, you never observed or you never saw any sort of list or black book or a list of individuals who linked to certain masseuses or
Absolutely
anything
no.
like that.
Absolutely no. There is no list. There is no. I'm not aware of any blackmail. I never heard that. I never saw it, and I never imagined it.
So while we're on this topic, and again, I know we're jumping around and we've been going at it for a while, so I apologize, but there's recently been reports about a birthday book that you assembled for Mr. Epstein, I think for his 50th birthday in 2003.
That's true.
What do you know about that?
So, my mum did a birthday book for my father at his 60th. And when Epstein would talk about his 50th, he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, well, that's a nice thing. So my mum did this book for my dad. And he said, I love that idea. He said, can you help coordinate it? And he organized he called a lot of the people himself. I coordinated the putting together of the book. And in some instances, I called people that asked them to contribute.
What was in the book? Like, what was the ask of the people you called?
It's his 50th birthday. Say anything you want on a piece of paper.
Okay.
I mean, nothing more than that.
Right. I mean, it was an obvious question, but you basically, his folks were invited to send something to you to celebrate his birthday.
Yes, to say happy birthday with like have a wonderful day or something else. There was no ask, but I wasn't responsible for everybody in that book, and there were people that he would ask himself to contribute.
And do you remember specific names of individuals who did send letters or who did contribute?
It's been so long. I want to tell you that I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
The article talks about several names, but including the focus of the article, which is on Donald Trump. Do you remember President Trump submitting a letter or a card or a note?
I don't.
Do you think the articles... Well, do you remember seeing that book or any portion of the letters in your discovery in New York?
Yes.
Okay, what do you remember seeing?
I remember there were some portions of that book, but what surprised me, What surprised me was how few there were, because I thought if you had those, where are the rest? There was none of Mr. Trump.
In your discovery?
In my discovery, sorry. President Trump, there was nothing from President
And do
Trump.
you remember, but separate and apart from your discovery, do you remember one way or the other whether President Trump submitted a letter for his 50th birthday?
I do not remember.
And the article that references the letter talks about sounds like either a picture of a naked woman or something like that. Do you have any recollection of that?
I do not. But no, I don't.
Do you remember? So what do you remember seeing from your discovery around the book? Like you said, portions of it or some of the pages? What do you remember?
I remember there were maybe... So I just want to say about the discovery that I had about... Maybe this is an exaggeration, I'm not sure, but in my mind it's about close to 5 million documents. It was a lot. And of that giant document dump that I received, I was only maybe as much as 30 to 35% I was never able to access. And this is documented at the court. And so I cannot say that I saw everything because I didn't.
Yeah, okay.
I just want you to know that. And I think that was by design.
But you do remember...
I do remember some pages.
Seeing some pages of
I do,
the book.
yes.
Okay. Do you remember which pages you saw? Like from who had written those letters, or no?
I really don't remember.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Did you or so the same questions we've asked about some other individuals? Did you meet Bill Gates over the years?
Yes.
Because of your relationship with Mr. Epstein, or separate?
That one. Well, I met Mr. Gates. I went to the TED conference. I went to TED conference and I actually spoke at the TED conference. Not the main stage, the sub-stage. And I also gave several TEDx's. And I met him there, but we weren't friendly. And I actually did meet him because I knew I don't know if he was the chief of staff or whoever, Boris. And I met him, I think, once. I may have met him actually at 71st Street. I may have once. I don't remember if I met him there or at a restaurant. I don't remember. And that would have been because of Epstein, because Epstein was friendly with Boris, and Boris. That's all I remember.
Do you know whether Mr. Gates traveled with Mr. Epstein on his plane to any of his houses?
So if that friendship was after, it was in the late 2000s, so if I met him, like I said, I went to Epstein's house maybe once or twice, and maybe I met him there, I don't remember.
So you don't...
So I wouldn't know if he had been on Epstein's
And
plane.
you don't recall ever being on like a plane with him flying to the island or to anywhere?
No.
Do you know somebody named Reid Hoffman?
I do.
Who's that?
Reid, Silicon Valley guy.
Is what?
Silicon Valley.
And how do you know him?
Through my friends in San Francisco. I used to have a very close friend who was in San Francisco who's part of that whole... I have several, actually, or had.
So is that a relationship you have kind of separate and apart from Mr. Epstein?
Or separate.
Do you know whether Mr. Epstein had a relationship with Reid Hoffman?
I don't know.
Did you ever observe Mr. Hoffman flying anywhere with you or Mr. Epstein?
No.
Or getting massages?
No.
So there's a list of multiple masseuses that is floating around. I think you had in your discovery. I think you were just talking about that. That list. Do you know how that list was created?
No. All that stuff that came out of that book, I now find suspect.
It's part of the story you just told us.
Yes. Now, I'm not saying it's all fake. I don't know what's real and what's not. I don't know what name is true. Now that it's been, to my mind anyway, now that it has been, without a doubt, contaminated and possibly fraudulent, I'm not, I don't know. I mean, obviously the numbers that I recognize are my own, those are real, but how it was actually ended up put together and compiled and the purposes for it, for which then they blackmailed my boyfriend, now I'm just, no.
Over the years, when you were serving as like the general manager, so the mid-90s all the way into the 2000s, did you or do you know whether anyone maintained a list of all the masseuses, like a running list?
So there's three ways. So I know that the house itself, John Alessi had a Rolodex that he kept the names and numbers of all the people that came to the house so that he could call. So, because I only was with Epstein, even at best, half the time. So when I was there, he had like his chief of staff who could find whatever he needed, and when I wasn't there, he had to rely on somebody else, right? So be that John Alessi or whoever else. So everybody, whoever was traveling with him or however, wherever he was, he needed somebody else to access information. So he had an assistant, chief, who was his secretary, who would be the one that would update his computer. You know, like everybody has an address book.
But was what you're describing, which it makes sense. Was that a list of masseuses or a list of people that might need to be contacted, which would necessarily include a lot of masseuses?
That's the latter.
And did you update that? Like, were you one of the people that would add names to it? Like, if a masseuse came and leaves and Mr. Epstein says yes, she was good, would you be part? Like, how was the list kind of maintained, or who maintained it?
Typically, no, because there would be an assistant who would do that. Plus, Epstein would not allow me to answer the telephone ever. So, or maintain or keep any of his messages in the office or at the house. So typically that wouldn't be, because I wouldn't be the one. Could I say to you I never did it? No, of course not, because that just seems ludicrous. But as a rule of thumb, the answer would be no.
During the 2007-8-9 the investigation out of the Southern District of Florida, so you said that you weren't contacted by law enforcement.
I was not.
After Mr. Epstein was charged, did you have conversations with him about the investigation?
He never talked to me about it.
Did you...
I mean, I can't... Let's put it this way. If he did, I have no recollection of it. I mean, I'm sure he must have said, this is all whatever he said, or it's nothing, or whatever. I mean, I just don't have any... don't have any memory. I mean, I was with Ted. I was like gone. I mean, plus I just didn't want to know either, I suppose.
So you don't know firsthand why the U.S. attorney in Florida made the deal that he did? Meaning you weren't part of that discussion along the way. Like Mr. Epstein didn't say, "I'm getting a good deal," or something's happening with the case that's very good. You to the extent you know anything about it, it's just from what you've heard or read from others, not from Mr. Epstein. Is that right?
He never talked about the non-prosecution directly with me, no. But he did.
But it's still enforceable as to her.
I mean, he never said, "Hey, are you happy with this deal?" like that. But I understood. I mean, he never enjoined me to the MPA, but I understand that he included me specifically, and I'll tell you why.
Well, it's okay. You don't need to get into that.
No, I don't want to talk about the legal, the what's on appeal. I'm just the reason for my question, and just to be, I'm not trying to hide something. There's a very strong belief that he got a very good deal, and that he should have been sentenced to more time or got a different sentence from the feds in a non-prosecution agreement. And I'm not asking you to opine on that, but I'm wondering whether he ever talked to you about that. But it sounds like he didn't.
That he got a good deal? No. I think actually, well, his comments that I've read was that he didn't get a good deal, and I think that when he fought it so hard is because he didn't think he did.
When he was serving his sentence, were you around during that time, like when he was allowed to leave during the day or travel during the day?
I never called him, I never saw him, and I never went to the jail.
So I'm going to ask you questions that you shouldn't read into them. I just want to know whether they resonate with you. Have you ever had any contact with any representative that you know of from Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency?
Can you ask me that again?
Have you ever had any contact with an individual that you understand to be from Mossad, an Israeli intelligence agency?
Well, not deliberately.
Pardon me?
Not deliberately.
Okay. And did you know, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but just to put a finer point on it, did you ever know that were you ever told, you ever think that Mr. Epstein was getting any money from any intelligence agency, including Mossad?
Well, I don't believe so, but I wouldn't know. I mean, I would be very surprised if he did. I don't think so. No.
We've talked about a lot of names, and I'm sure there's some that we haven't covered. Are there any foreign nationals? So right now we've talked about some British, the royal family a little bit, and maybe high society folks in Britain. Were there any international businessmen or politicians that had a very close relationship or a close relationship with Mr. Epstein that we haven't already talked about?
Off the top of my head, I can think of Ehud Barak.
You said that Mr. Epstein, at some point in the mid to late 90s, he started taking testosterone. Did you ever know him to take any other drugs?
No. I mean, he took pills for his heart, I think. But no substances.
What do you know anything about his heart condition? I know we talked about this at 9:45 this morning, but do you know anything about his heart condition beyond that you understood he had a heart condition that affected his ability to have sex?
Other than what he told me, no, he never shared anything, but he did take pills. I don't know anything about that. And like I said, he did the testosterone, which made him mean.
And we're jumping around a little bit.
Sorry.
Do you know someone named Donald Barr?
No.
He is, I can represent to you, was the former headmaster of the Dalton School, which you mentioned earlier.
All right.
Do you remember any conversations with Mr. Epstein about a book that Mr. Barr wrote called Space Relations?
I've never heard of that.
About aliens and sex?
No.
Do you know have you ever met the former Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr?
No.
Do you remember whether Mr. Epstein knew him or whether his name ever came up in conversations you had with Mr. Epstein?
I don't recall any.
Okay. Did you have a relationship, or no? I'm using relationship, and I appreciate you don't like that word. Did you know Mr. Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein?
Yes.
How did you know him?
Through Jeffrey.
How would you describe your relationship? Close, friendly?
My personal?
Yes.
Not that close, but friendly enough. I mean,
How was Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with his brother Mark, from what you observed?
I mean, they were brotherly, but I think that I don't know. There are periods when they were closer, and then when they weren't. I think sometimes Epstein found his brother irritating.
And I think I know the answer is given what you just said about Bill Barr, but did you ever hear anything from Mr. Epstein or anybody else that Bill Barr had any role in Mr. Epstein getting a good plea deal in Florida, or any role in that process with Mr. Acosta?
I never heard that.
I think you said this in an interview, but if I'm wrong, forgive me. Do you have a view of Mr. Epstein, of whether he committed suicide or whether something else happened?
Can we take a break?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can take a break. Yeah, sure. Actually, it's a good time to take a break anyway, because this will be the last one of the day.
All right, so we're going to take a break at it's 2:53, Thursday, July 24th. We are continuing with the recorded proffer of Ms. Maxwell. The time is now 3:10 p.m., Thursday, July 24th.
My colleagues alerted me to a couple questions I think I may have forgotten to ask you. One is, sorry, I'm just going through my notes. Well, we talked a few minutes ago about this birthday book that there's been press about. I understand you don't remember anything with President Trump, or a lot about the book anyway. Do you remember asking President Trump to submit a letter for that?
I do not.
And do you remember, would you have been the one to do that, or would somebody else have done that?
I did ask some people. I don't remember Mr. Trump. I don't remember who I did ask, but Epstein also asked people himself directly.
Okay.
So it could have happened that way, if it happened at all.
I'm trying to find on that. Where is that?
You mentioned Ehud Barak.
Yes.
What was his involvement?
This would have been in the later 2000s, so I do not know how they met, but I do know that they, I don't know if friendly would be the right word, I don't know that, but I know that they saw each other, and only because my father, you know, anything that touches Israel or the state of Israel, I'm always interested in, because my father loved Israel, and so I pay attention to it, and we have ties to, you know, to Israel.
When you said it was later, though,
Ties meaning friends and family relations.
was the prominent, it was Mr. Barak, Prince Barak. Do you know what the nature of his relationship was with Mr. Epstein?
I don't.
Do you know, were you ever with them together?
I think I have a memory of meeting Ehud, but I don't know if he was with Epstein or, I don't remember. I just know that I did see him, and I'm struggling to remember the context around it. But I'm sure it happened, but it must have been very brief, because I don't have any serious memory of it, any deep memory of it.
And maybe this is obvious.
And maybe it comes also because I've read it in the press. That's maybe something that brought it to my memory. So that's also, I think the press has been very contaminating. So it's hard sometimes to separate those stories from, you know, your memory, sometimes.
Do you know a British gymnast by the name of Heather Mann?
Yes.
Did she...
I didn't know she was a gymnast.
Oh, okay. I'm reading something that says she was a gymnast, but
okay.
Please don't assume that that's correct.
Okay.
Based upon my words.
Okay.
Did she ever travel with you and/or Mr. Epstein?
I think, yeah, she did actually. I think that she might have been one of Mr. Epstein's girlfriends at some point.
What? Again, I know we're talking about time periods that are vast. What time period would that have been? Like after you, since 2000?
I wanted to say, I don't know, could be the 90s, I don't know. But I mean, listen, there are people that pop out of the woodwork all the time. I just saw one on TV saying she was his girlfriend in 93 and 94. So, I mean, he obviously was very busy.
Where she's lying.
What was that?
Did someone named Mark Middleton?
Yes, I
Who's
remember
that?
him. He was in the Mr. Clinton's administration, President Clinton's administration, I think.
And how do you know him?
I met him, and I met him through Mr. Epstein.
And was he, from what you observed, was he a friend or business acquaintance with Mr. Epstein?
I mean, I only saw him a handful of times, but I did see him with him. I mean, he seemed friendly. I don't know if I would characterize. I mean, only having seen him briefly, I don't know how to characterize that.
Do you know whether he flew on airplanes with Mr. Epstein? Did he visit the island? Do you know anything about that or their relationship as it relates to that?
I don't have any recollection of seeing Mark Middleton at the island.
How about former U.S. Senator George Mitchell?
Yeah, I do remember George.
What do you remember about him?
I travelled with him. We went to the most memorable day. I went to. Well, I was friendly with his wife. Start with that, with Heather. And Heather was in New York, so I hung out with her a few times. We had dinners, and I was just friendly, I would say. Separately from her husband, was friends with Heather. I met Heather through her husband, but we became friends.
You became friends with Heather.
Yes.
Was Mr. Epstein friends with Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Did they travel together besides New York? Did they travel to the island or to New Mexico?
I don't remember George ever at the island, but the most memorable trip I do recall with Senator was to Italy.
Was to where?
To Italy.
Ah, okay.
We went to Rome.
As the four of you? So Heather and Mr. Mitchell and you and Mr. Epstein?
That's my recollection.
And what were you there for?
Well, the most memorable aspect of that trip is we went to the Vatican. It was extraordinary. And the most extraordinary thing was going to the archives and holding Henry VIII's document to the Pope, asking for his divorce.
Do you know the former president of Colombia, Andres Pastrana?
Yes.
How do you know him?
I met Andres Pastrana in a pub in Dublin.
And did he travel with Mr. Epstein that you know?
I don't know if I don't know if he was ever on the plane. I don't think he ever came to the island. But I went 2 places with Andres Pastrana. One was to Colombia, and Epstein came to that, and the other was to Cuba, and Epstein was there, and Pastrana was there.
And what were the purposes of traveling to Colombia and then Cuba?
I'm a helicopter pilot, and Andres is a helicopter pilot, and we just became friends, and I flew a Black Hawk in Colombia.
And how about to Cuba?
I have a friend of mine who was the cigar distributor for Monte Cristo's, maybe. I can't remember which cigar it was. And so we went there, and he organised the trip, and we met Fidel Castro.
When was that approximately?
Had to be 2002, 2003.
Okay.
Something like that, I think.
There's some more names that we might talk about tomorrow with the same type of questions. But as far as a catch-all, there's been a tremendous amount of public information about all kinds of names, including some of the folks we talked about today, and their relationship with Mr. Epstein and or you. For any of the folks that we've talked about today, did you observe them doing anything improper with Mr. Epstein, whether with masseuses or with women or girls who were traveling, or at the residence that they were at, or at the parties that they were at?
I did not ever at any time see that.
And for any of the names we've talked about today, and then tomorrow we'll talk about some more, but for today, do you recall having any conversations with anybody else where they reported to you that they had seen something that one of these individuals had done, whether someone else that works with Mr. Epstein or somebody that observed something?
If anybody had ever reported anything, first of all, the answer to that is no. And also, I just want to be clear that had anybody ever reported anything illegal or disgusting like that, I would have immediately done something. And I never heard it, I never saw it, and no one ever complained to me, or tears, nothing like that.
Okay. All right. So we took a break when we were talking about Mr. Epstein and his death. Oh, bless you. That's okay. Take your time. So Mr. Epstein and his death. So you were not obviously at the MCC during that time, correct?
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. I thought you were giving it to you.
I think I've got something that blew up my nose.
So just take some water. It's okay. No problem. You were not at the MCC during that time, correct?
I was not.
So you're going to tell us what you believe, but I just want to make sure I understand. Your basis for belief is kind of what you've read and seen, and your knowledge of Mr. Epstein for the many years you knew him, right?
And actually, there's a third component.
Okay.
The answer to that is yes, and
Okay.
there's a third component to that, which is having experienced now the mismanagement and inefficiencies and total dereliction of duty at the Bureau of Prisons.
From BOP, from the Bureau of Prisons. Okay, fair. Okay, so, what I do want to be careful about is, asking you to speculate, because anybody can do that, and I don't think that's fair to you or anybody else to ask you to give us your kind of opinion. But do you think that the third point you say, which is kind of a failure by the BOP, there's been there's an OIG report, there's an SDNY investigation about that. You think he did not die by suicide, given all the things we just talked about?
I do not believe he died by suicide, no.
And do you believe that, do you have any speculation or view of who killed him?
No, I don't.
And I ask that because if you don't believe that there's any truth to the allegations of blackmail, or that he had kind of a list, or that he had reasons to have people hate him, why would somebody kill him in prison?
Well, in prison, where I am, they will kill you, or somebody can pay a prisoner to kill you for $25 worth of commissary is about the going rate for a hit with a lock today.
So that goes to the third reason, which is kind of the mismanagement, or
Yes.
the shortfallings or shortcomings of the Bureau of Prisons.
Yes.
Which is a little bit different than my question is, which is, do you think there's somebody on the outside of prison? So putting aside what could happen on the inside, on the outside of prison, who wanted him dead so badly that he would have, or she would have, caused him to be killed on the inside?
I think I don't see that. I think, is it possible? Of course it's possible, but I don't know of any reason why, and I don't believe in the blackmail or in any of this. I don't think Epstein had a hit on like that. If it is indeed murder, I believe it was an internal situation.
Yeah, so you don't have any reason, first-hand knowledge, or even speculation, it sounds like, to think that that he was killed to kind of silence him or to keep him from going public about people he knew about.
I don't. No, because I think that is just part of the story that's been created that started back in 2008-9.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the point. Like, I don't think there's value in talking. You know, there's been a lot of information about what happened, you know, in the MCC, but what is important to me is whether, you know, if is the idea that he didn't die by suicide. That's one thing, but if to the extent that folks believe that he was murdered to keep him quiet or because he had information on rich and powerful people, that's what do you have any reason to believe that that's true?
I do not have any reason to believe that, and I also think it's ludicrous, because I also happen to think if that is what they wanted, they would have had plenty of opportunity when he wasn't in jail. Yeah. If they were worried about blackmail or anything from him, he would have been a very easy target.
In the time, so we've talked about a lot of time all the way up through 2009-10, and then the time that after Mr. Epstein was arrested. When's the last time you spoke with him?
Maybe 2016, 2017, maybe 2016, 2015, 2016, 2017, in that area, I believe.
And what when you're thinking about that last time, was that you had been talking to him a lot and then you stopped, or was that a one-off time and it was infrequent at that point?
I really wasn't in communication. The only communications I had with him was with regards to the civil suits. The civil suit that I found myself in, the defamation suit I found myself in. I needed help. I needed information, and I didn't have what I needed. And so that was really what drove it, was me trying to get myself out of this situation, which ultimately led to where I am today. And so when that, I don't remember even if I stopped talking to him before that. I thought he was angry with me anyway. He didn't like what I did, and I wasn't interested in what he had to say to me. And
what did you think he was angry with you about?
I think he was angry that I had even said that I had referred to her being a liar. He said I should have not said anything, but
when the civil suits that were ongoing before Mr. Epstein's death,
yes.
Did your lawyers coordinate with his lawyers, like in discovery and things like that, or anything?
I don't think we coordinated in I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't want to misspeak. There was some degree of communication, for sure. I just don't know the degree that took place. So definitely, I mean, I was definitely hoping for him to be more helpful, and I was definitely, coordinating is not a good word because that sounds like I was trying to align myself. That's not where we were going here. But I was definitely trying to get help, as in documents or information that I could use to defend myself. That's 100% true. And the degree to which that took place, I don't recall. There was definitely some of that, though. I don't want to mislead you.
And we touched on this earlier, but I just want to, I don't think we really ran it to ground maybe as much as we could. Like, going up through that time, you know, so in the 16, 17, 18, up until the time he's arrested, had your view or your understanding of what had happened changed? Meaning, did you believe that in the late 90s or early 2000s, when he started, you know, behaving much differently, did you believe what you were hearing about him at that point?
My views I don't like the people he was with anyway. So I don't find how do I say this? I like people who my age or older, and I don't find the society of or the companionship of younger people who are younger people, I suppose, really that enjoyable. So I don't like the company that he chose to be with, and so I just find it boring and fundamentally uninteresting. That's probably the nicest way I can say it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think what we should do is just spend a few minutes talking about tomorrow. Everything was great today. I think that it was very helpful, and I appreciate you trying to be as complete as you can. I think tomorrow, you said a few things today about materials that you brought. When we're done, we'll give you a few minutes with Mr. Marcus to if there's things that you want to show him that you think we should see. Like I said, I'm not asking you to corroborate anything. If I was asking you to corroborate something, I would tell you. But if there's something you think that you don't think that the government has seen, or you think that it was important for me to see, let Mr. Marcus know, and he can share it with me. Tomorrow, we'll certainly have some follow-on questions when we all think about tonight, and I think you will too. You know, we can all think about stuff we've talked about. We covered a lot of different areas. I do want to talk more about you. So by design today, we wanted to focus on Mr. Epstein and talk about, kind of, everything under the sun that we've gone through today. I do think it's important when we all evaluate what you've said today and kind of your story, to also understand why you're here, right? So you were indicted, you were charged, you went to trial, and I want to do that in a way that gives you an opportunity to kind of say your piece, or to say what you haven't said before, but also understanding that there was people who took the witness stand and swore to tell the truth and testified about you and what you did and what they think you saw and what they heard you say, and I'm not. I said to Mr. Marcus, I'm not trying to create a kind of a she said situation, or he said she said situation, but I do want to hear from you about your conduct, because it's important, I think, for when we evaluate what you say and how you say it, and your recollection of things, to talk about that. So we'll do that tomorrow. I want to talk about the circumstances leading up to your arrest. There's a lot of, I think, misinformation, or there's a lot of information out there that I don't know whether it's misinformation, but about the time from 2019 up until the time that you were arrested. And then, like I said, that'll take us through lunch tomorrow, and then we'll be done. I don't have a plan. I didn't know that I was coming here until this week. Okay, so I'm not. There isn't like a. We don't have like a schedule of what happens next or what happens. But that's not a negative thing. I'm just saying that's so you shouldn't take the lack of a next step as anything other than we don't have a next step yet. So.
May I say something?
Of course, yes.
I just would like to put out there that I also focused on how I think the president got swept into some of this, unnecessarily, by the way. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I certainly don't subscribe to all of everything that I see, but I do believe that there is animus in some areas that may have contributed to how the use of the president to harm him, that I find deeply offensive. And whilst I can't obviously say definitively that is what it is, I would like to show you what I see, so that you can evaluate it and do with that as you see fit, if it needs to be addressed. I've seen it. It struck me, and I would like to give it to you
Sure.
for what it's worth.
Okay.
Does that seem something that I
Yeah,
can...
that's fine. Yeah, of course.
I don't like...
Yeah, okay, that's fine, that's great. Okay, so why don't we stop for today? I'll give you a little bit of time to chat, and then see you in the morning.
Thanks, Al. Great.
This will conclude the recorded proffer interview for Thursday, July 24th. We will continue tomorrow, Friday, July 25th. The time is 3:34.
You've been listening to a Justice Department interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, a longtime associate of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Ms. Maxwell was convicted in 2021 on sex trafficking charges and sentenced to 20 years in prison. She sat down with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche for 2 days last month to discuss the Epstein case and claimed that she never saw President Trump or former President Clinton in inappropriate settings. And we want your thoughts on the release of the Maxwell transcripts. We'll take your calls and comments live on Washington Journal at 7 a.m. Eastern.